Good evening, everyone, and welcome to football. We have not had a live NFL game since February when the Super Bowl took place, and tonight we have live football for real. It's been a long wait, but the season is back, and this channel is back. It has been a little bit of a hiatus, but we are re-emerging, and there will be some content coming out very soon from here. But I'd like to kick off this season with a live stream. And, as football returns, I'm very excited to look forward to what tonight will be. The game is not quite started yet, but they just honored some of this year's Hall of Fame inductees, and it is a great sight to see legends of the game finally be inducted into the Hall of Fame, many of whom had to wait a long time, and it was an honor for them to receive. They're in the hall now, and they get to do it in Canton, Ohio, where the hall takes place. And so before the game here starts, I do want to take a look at some key players in tonight's game. The Hall of Fame game, of course, is a preseason game where, the records don't count, but there are a lot of guys here that are looking to make an impact. And we're going to look to learn about some players as well as really see what guys are really going to want to make this roster. There's a lot of guys who are on the edge of are they going to make it or not, and perhaps a performance in this game can help make the difference for them. So I want to start with looking at the key players on both sides for tonight's game. I picked some top options, and there are a lot of players that are going to get playing time, more than a normal NFL game. So let's start with the Jets offense. And I decided to kind of go some young players here, some skill positions. They're all rookies on this side. And starting with Israel Abanikanda. He was a fifth round pick this year out of Pitt, had a very good career in the ACC for the Panthers. And he comes in here as a guy that I think for his rookie year could potentially be a gadget player at least, or a special player, special teams with, for example, the return game. I think he could potentially be an option there. I think that, they don't have him listed yet, but I think that he could potentially work in that way. But otherwise, I think he's going to be key on special teams in this, what his role is going to be. He's competing, I would say, with maybe the third running back spot, and that's, of course, including Breece Hall, who is currently on the PUP list. So he's not even healthy yet. So he kind of is already right now battling for that second spot with Bam or Zonovan Knight is going to be his biggest competition there. And so they have Michael Carter, but I think that Abanikanda, with a good evening here, could potentially, it's going to be him and Knight, I think, kind of battling for that third running back spot. I think I've seen a little bit of people debating that it might be for the team spot. I think both will make the team realistically, but getting some playing time as a rookie would be key, especially if Breece Hall is going to miss some time. Who knows? With a good performance, he could even start rising above Michael Carter on the depth chart. Then I have Jason Brownlee, who is just an example of a training camp headline. This guy is a rookie, undrafted player who has been turning heads all of camp. I'm seeing a lot of great things online of what he's bringing to the team, and he's apparently already received some first team reps. And this guy is a rookie, undrafted, but I think will get a good amount of playing time this evening. And I would not be surprised. They have him already, I believe, on the second team on the depth chart. And so I would not be surprised to see him get out on the field immediately in tonight's game and potentially make some plays. So that is a definite upside player that we don't know much about yet, but he's going to make a name for himself. And it's looking like he could potentially make this team. I mean, there's a lot of veterans. I think we'll talk about later. The Jets receiving core has a lot of questions. You have a star in Garrett Wilson, but behind that, you have guys are going to make the roster, but it's going to be in what order do players make plays. And so we'll talk about that later on, who makes a team or who's going to be involved in this roster for them. But I really think that Brownlee could put his name in the mix pretty fast. And I also have, not as maybe flashy of a choice, but Joe Tippmann here is a rookie second round center. And I think it's still going to be Connor McGovern's job to lose, but I think it's an intriguing storyline to look at when you spend that capital on a player in the second round. You're obviously looking towards a potential future change at the position. So I think it is going to be interesting to see if he puts up a good performance there. Okay, respect. It looks like DeMarcus Ware is potentially singing the anthem, that's kind of cool to have a player do that. I've not really seen that happen before. So that's intriguing. That's good to know. When you have a player that has a talent that not everyone would know, that's a that is an inspiring piece. So as we shift to the defensive side of the ball, I'm gonna have a couple more highlight players for the Jets. Will McDonald the fourth is a first round pick out of Iowa State. And looking at their edge room, this edge room is very crowded for the Jets. They have a lot of players that are looking for playing time. And, I think edge rush is one of the positions that you always love to have more of. On that defensive line, we look at the Eagles have had success. But I think that it's going to be interesting. They just had Jermaine Johnson last year out of Florida State as a first-round pick. So he's already there. You also still have, more of a run stuffer, but Michael Clemens out of Texas A&M a few years ago, he's there too. And so currently McDonald's listed behind them, but I think he'll get plenty of playing time this evening and could potentially put up a good performance. Zaire Barnes was a late round pick, but the Jets have had kind of questionable linebacker depth for the last few years. You have C.J. Mosley, and behind that you have a lot of young players who are looking to develop, but nobody really proven there. And specifically on the depth, I think that there's a wide open, we'll talk about that position group later, but there is really, I think, a wide open competition there. I think there's going to be a lot of spots available. And this last guy here, Javelin Guidry, not a player that might even not make this team, but I think that he could potentially put something on tape for other teams to look at. He's a nickel corner, a slot guy who he's bounced around a little bit. But Michael Carter II is this team's slot corner, the nickel. But they're not going to play him tonight. They said they're not playing starters, so I imagine he won't play, meaning that Guidry will be that next up and will likely receive a lot of snaps. So I don't know if he's going to even make the team, but I think he's going to be a name to look at because he's just simply going to get a lot of playing time. And now let's jump to the Browns side. Let's talk about their offense. I think there's a few key players, once again, on the younger side that we're going to look at in tonight's game. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the rookie quarterback out of UCLA. It's been announced already they're not going to play Watson, and it looks like they're not going to play Josh Dobbs either. It's going to be Kellen Mond is getting the start, and I'd imagine he maybe gets the first half or so, and then they're going to switch to Dorian Thompson-Robinson. So I imagine we're going to see a lot of him this evening. Showed some mobile ability, and I think that is an element that he brings to the offense. Same with Mond, but I'm excited to see what Thompson-Robinson brings tonight. I think he'll receive a good amount of playing time there. And then my other two to look at, there were a lot of other choices. For sure, I wanted to put Cedric Tillman in there, the rookie receiver out of Tennessee. I think that once again, like some other positions on the Jets too, there's some depth kind of open spots available. For the Browns, I'm really interested to see who's going to be their second receiver and who's third. But then behind that, somebody has to be the fourth receiver. And so I'm going to be very intrigued to see what that is. And I think Cedric Tillman puts up a great option for them. As a rookie here, I imagine he'll be involved probably on the field right away. And then I think a little bit of a sleeper pick here, Jaelon Darden. He started with the Bucks on that just crowded receiver room, kind of the same time as Tyler Johnson. Two guys that I feel like never really got a chance because there were so many star players above, whether it was Mike Evans and Godwin, obviously, for years, but then even Russell Gage. You had Scotty Miller getting playing time. There were too many players for them to really get on the field. Julio Jones took into that for a bit. I'm excited to see what he does tonight. There's a potential in the receiving game, and as it looks like we're almost ready to kick off, I'm going to close it here with the defense. Two rookies, and defensively on the defensive line at edge rush, I'm going to take an eye out for those two rookies, the top two there. But then also D'Anthony Bell is a safety, received a little bit of playing time last year. But if they're not playing starters, I don't know if they're going to play Rodney McLeod either. He's a veteran. He's already proved himself. I think D'Anthony Bell will maybe be the star safety in tonight's lineup. So I'm going to see what he does as well. So now the game has It's going to begin. They kicked it off to Hassan Hall, a rookie running back that I imagine we'll talk about later this evening as well. I think they're going to want to involve him later in the game. The depth of the running backs for the Browns will be another sight to see. But Mond is going to start the game here. They're going to motion a receiver to the left, and they go play action right off the bat. They go a screen pass. It's caught by John Kelly, who is one of those running backs to look at. He's going to get a good opportunity. I saw that he's going to get quite a bit of playing time, especially if they are not playing Chubb. I've seen mixed reports this week. I maybe thought at one point Jerome Ford wasn't going to play. And so that really opens it up for John Kelly, who might even get more time than Demetric Felton right away. So that's an interesting first play. We have 5 yards. Mond is going to get the starting job here for tonight. And it looks like they're going to switch up the formation here. They still have Kelly in there in the backfield. And almost a jump there from the Jets. But Mond is going to take the snap. He's looking to his right, just throws it short. And that is going to be caught and goes for a first down there. And that was a solid read by Mond. Took his time and just kind of went short, and that ends up working out there. And that one was caught by Mitchell Payton Zaire. I was trying to figure out which tight end it is. That's their 4th-string tight end. But he gets in there right away. So that means they might not involve Jordan Akins or Harrison Bryant right away either, besides Njoku. So that's going to be something to watch. He's going to get plenty of playing time because they only have 5 on the roster. And so he might be involved in this offense early. As we go through this evening, I will be looking at each of the positions. We'll kind of find times during the breaks to potentially look at some position battles on each team and take a look at their rosters. Here they're going to have deep in the backfield. It looks like they've swapped. And no, it's back to Kelly, and that is going to be a tackle by Clemens. He's known for being a run stuffer there, and he gets in on that play. That's key for him. You know, once again, a lot of competition in that edge room. And so he's out there right away. They give it, so Kelly is going to get the look first. It looks like Bryce Huff is also on the field. Interesting to monitor because then that means I think Johnson and McDonald don't get out there right away. 2 former, a current first-round pick basically. 2nd and 9 here. They're going to hand it off again. They are giving the ball to John Kelly. And he is doing pretty well. It's going to be 3rd down here. 3rd down and short. They're going to keep Kelly in. First drive of the game. Deshaun Watson, of course, on the sideline for tonight's matchup. And 3rd and 1 is going to be what the down and distance is. Now, Deshaun Watson we'll talk about later, of course, when we look at the quarterback position, but had a bit of a down year, of course, after the suspension. And so it's going to be a question of whether he can get back to his normal self. There's a flag on the play immediately. Mond checks it down to Kelly, who just runs a solid 20 yards, checks into the injury tent, but there was a flag on the play. I would have to imagine this one is coming back. And we're waiting the signal from the referee. Adrian Hill is tonight's referee. 5th season as an NFL referee. And he's already asked to get involved. We got Rodgers with the headset also on the sideline. I think he's going to be involved in their offense actually this evening. Perhaps even making some play calls. And still awaiting the call here. And yeah, it looks like a legal formation on the offense. So that's going to bring it back. They, of course, had a 3rd and 1. Oh. Okay, there's a big explanation here. I have the audio muted so it doesn't get on the stream, but there is a huge explanation. Something clearly debated here. For sure, I saw number 45 was involved. Salah's disappointed, so I think it actually... What happened here? Okay, so we have... It looks like it was an illegal formation, but then a late hit, perhaps, by Brandon Echols, who is already suspended for a game. You don't love to see that for him. But the Browns now have it as a 1st and 10. Mond off the play action, fires it over the middle. That's going to be caught. Wow, Cedric Tillman getting involved early. That is great for the rookie out of Tennessee there. already getting some work over the middle. That was confidence from Mond. I love to see that poise. As someone who got to see him as a Viking, he didn't really get a full opportunity, but I can understand at times that, there were just some plays that you weren't able to really ignore, that there were some mistakes. But I think seeing that he's gaining that poise in the pocket is a huge strength because he's always had the mobility. It's just whether he can get that kind of confidence there. You'd love to see that. Handing it off here to John Kelly again, gets a block, and they maybe get back to the line of scrimmage there. I think that Mond this evening, honestly, might not even once again, like some other guys, be competing for a spot on this team, as I think the drafting of DTR was really unfortunate for him. But because I think Dobbs will probably be the backup, but I think that if he puts up a decent preseason, another team will look at him again. He's always been a development guy, but if he can maybe elevate himself to be a solid confirmation backup, that could help his career out a ton. Because right now you have to carry him as a third, which of course hurts the roster. And now Mond looks to the right, checks it down to Kelly, but it is dropped there. Kind of flustered, immediately pressured there. Not much you can do in that situation, and a bit of a high throw on that one. Now we have I'm experimenting. I will say this ahead of time, where to get ideal camera angle, I have the stream right in front of me, but if it ever is not working, I will go old-fashioned TV style, and I'll shift the camera because unfortunately I couldn't show it for copyright reasons. But the stream is back, and Mond is pressured and sacked. Bryce Huff, I believe, got in there. Yes, he did. Now, Bryce Huff has really been a sleeper. A guy that some really liked in the draft, but he fell, I think, out of the whole thing. I believe he was undrafted a few years ago out of Memphis. And wow, he gets in there for the sack. He goes to the left, and who is that, against James Hudson? Of course, had a scuffle earlier. I think it was this week or last week. But Bryce Huff brings the pressure, and once again, I think it's always interesting to see that, they bring in Bryce Huff and Clemens, and not either of the previous first-round picks. And then, is that a missed kick? It is. I would be worried about copyright reasons here. But a missed kick immediately by Cade York. They don't have any other kicker, so they're going with him. And did this go wide right? It did. Well, the first drive of the game goes to the right of a field goal, so no points are scored. So that means commercial break. So we are going to talk about the Browns, because they just had the ball. Let's talk about what just happened and take a further look at what that Browns roster is looking like. At the quarterback position, they have 4 players who are looking, to make an impact here. We have Deshaun Watson, who's their starter, already secured his spot. Josh Dobbs seems to have kind of secured that backup spot, assuming because they're not playing him this evening and they're giving the other 2 guys a look. He's proven, even looked all right late last season for the Titans. He got playing time over Malik Willis, for what that says. But they clearly, I think, believe in him, it seems, to be the backup. Because then you have the 2 young guys behind that. DTR, who they pick in this year's draft, I would have to think he's more likely to end up as the 3rd quarterback, even though he's currently behind Mond on the depth chart. Mond kind of just sat the bench last year after he was claimed. After the Vikings cut him, the Browns claimed him, and so he kind of just was that 3rd all last season. But I think DTR is more likely to get that spot this year, and it's going to be interesting to see what Mond kind of does, because I think he'll become available again, and whether a team picks him up after that, I think will be very intriguing. I think that in the end, they're going to keep 3 at that quarterback position. Then looking at the running backs, we've seen only John Kelly Jr. so far this evening, except Hassan Hall did take the opening kick back, which is interesting. Do they even have him? They don't even have him listed on there. Their kick return really kind of eased lower down there, but that's good to see him get an opportunity on that. But Nick Chubb, not going to play tonight, but he is their absolute bell cow. He's getting the ball. But behind that is the question. Do they no longer have Kareem Hunt? Do you have a reliable option? They've taken some shots at the board late in the draft the past few years, starting with Jerome Ford, who was out of Cincinnati. He, I believe, was dealing with an injury, so I don't think he's going to play this evening. And then they skipped Demetric Felton, although there was reports that that was going to happen this week. They were going to go straight to John Kelly Jr., who looked good in his first drive. He started his career with the Rams and never really got an opportunity. I think that he looked really solid on that first drive, put up a decent performance. Demetric Felton is a guy who has played both running back and receiver, so I'll be interested to see how they use him again. It looks like they're more leaning running back. And Nate McCrary also spent some time with the Ravens, but now the game is back. So we're going to resume now with the Jets, who have the ball. And they just handed it off, and who's starting at them? They give it to Abanikanda to start the game, the rookie out of Pitt. Was a notable player, as we talked about earlier, but Zach Wilson gets the spotlight again for, some preseason time. Of course, a train wreck of a season last year, and my last stream was the game against the Jaguars where he got benched. And that was kind of a telling time when they went to Streveler at that moment. And now he passes out to the right to Kenny Yeboah, who has been hanging out around. He's been hanging on to a roster spot these last few years. He's just been kind of still able to hang on, and in a crowded tight end room always seems to still be there. And so Zach Wilson, of course, will get the start now, and as someone who I did see a lot of flashes of his greatness coming out of the draft, there were a lot of things, that's why he went so high. You kind of saw it start to fall apart. And I think that him getting this break and getting to learn from Rodgers is the best thing that could happen to him. And I would not be surprised to see him either later in his career with the Jets or on another team. I'm not going to, completely back out on him now. It's 3rd and 2. He's looking around now. He hits a 360 and then he slips. You don't love to see that. I definitely saw a hole right to the right that I think he easily could have. Rodgers looks a little disgusted there. He's like, what was that? I mean, this kind of goes back to one of his weaknesses, and I think that's what I talked about that last stream, is what kind of went into the unraveling of Zach Wilson is I think the things that we saw as minor flaws kind of became consistent things. And so here is something clearly an example of doing too much, where he could have potentially just stepped up and ran there. I think I saw an opening, but instead he, hits a 360, which then he also could have got it. He slipped, but unfortunate there. But here comes the vet Thomas Morstead, who's been around for a while now, and that kick goes to, is that Felton on the kick return? Maybe they're using him there, and he gets out to the 12. Interesting. Kind of a short return, but a quick one for the Jets on offense. So let's, as they go to commercial break again, let's take a look at that quarterback room for the Jets. I'm interested to see where they go with this, because Aaron Rodgers, they bring in from Green Bay. They go for the fences here. They're going to look to have success right away. And I think that I love the move for them to just go for that here. And of course, though, we know what he is. Is he going to stay at that level that he's been at before? Hopefully for them. But let's talk about what's below that, because I think it's going to be interesting. We think they're easily going to keep Zach Wilson as a backup. I think it's great for him to get some time behind Rodgers and really develop his game. Tim Boyle and Chris Streveler are two guys I think I'm looking to watch this evening. I don't know how much they're going to give Wilson, if they give him the whole first half, if they give him a quarter. I don't know how that's going to work, because these are two. Boyle is a veteran at this point. I mean, it feels like he's been around longer than he has. I looked up. I think he was actually just picked in like 2000. It was for sure later than 16 maybe. But that is shocking, because, he was kind of with Rodgers in Green Bay for a while. Bounced around the division too, with the Lions a little bit. I think he was on the Bears briefly too. They bring him in, has some familiarity with Rodgers too. I don't know if they would keep him and keep 3. I think that's going to be interesting, because Streveler too, former CFL star, got some playing time in that Jaguars game last year. He's just kind of a gunslinger. I mean, you kind of, when you see it, when you watch, he doesn't really care what's going to happen. He's going to go for it. He also has some mobility there. Those are two guys I think will I'll be interested if Boyle plays because he's more experienced there, but I think Streveler will get some action. But I do think it's going to be very interesting to see if they keep three in this situation. And before they go back, let's maybe touch on the running backs too. Breece Hall, of course, the storyline. Now, there's a lot of storylines too. Are they going to bring in Dalvin Cook? I think that he's a great player, would bring a lot to this team. I don't think it's a need. I think it would be a great help for them, but Breece Hall is their guy. They took him last year. He looked solid. Of course, had the injury, though. He's on the PUP list, kind of expected. I imagine he's going to miss some time, but maybe not a ton. We're going to jump back to the game and then resume the conversation about the running backs. But let's take a look what Mond is going to do here with the ball again. They're backed up towards the end zone. And Kelly is still in the game. They're going to give the ball to him, and he looks explosive again, makes a guy miss, and gets to the 21-yard line. John Kelly Jr. is putting up a solid performance on the ground this evening. Looks like Jamien Sherwood may be involved in that tackle. Interesting, Sherwood is almost considered a starter, so him getting in the game kind of shows that competition at linebacker. But a solid run by Kelly made that next level defender miss and able to continue and get those yards. And now Mond will get another opportunity. They have Kelly deep in the backfield. They're going to keep him involved early. And they're going to hand it off to him again. This time he's going to be stopped behind the line. There's a flag as well. And holy cow, Sherwood just drove him about 8 yards backwards. But I think they'll give him, forward momentum. But that was a run stop and a half. Flag on the play, though, and it looks like it's against the Jets because Robert Saleh is not happy on that. Defense. It might have been encroachment on Tanzel Smart. You don't love to see that as he's kind of a bottom of the depth chart defensive lineman who has shown some ability at times, but is going to need to put up a solid performance to really stick here. But he's getting in the game early. It looks like Marquis Spencer's out there too. Those are like their last two defensive tackles on the depth chart. That's very interesting to see. Sherwood out there, he's a starter. It makes sense. He's looking pretty solid. And who are they going to bring in motion here? And 1st and 5 now after the penalty. They fake the handoff again. Mond now looking, fires it pretty far. And that's going to be dropped there, but they call another flag. The yellow towels are out on the field early and often this evening. That ball, that was Thomas Greeny. Yeah, that was their last tight end. They're going to their 4th and 5th tight ends immediately. But this one was dropped. Oh, is this on Eagles again? Oh my goodness. This is on Cedric Tillman, covering Cedric Tillman. We have a foul from Brandon Echols, and that is really unfortunate for him because he's already on the suspended list. He's already going to be missing some games this year, and so him already having, I think at this point 2 penalties, or at least he had a play earlier that was not the best, but don't love to see the penalty on that one. Jets have 3 penalties, 25 yards, none for the Browns yet. But let's see where they go again on 1st down and 10. It seems like they've had quite a lot of moving the chains because of penalties. And they go play action, but pressure is off the edge, and that pass is short. Tried to just get a quick pass there, but there was immediate pressure on that. Let's see who got there. And that's Will McDonald IV, the 1st-round pick out of Iowa State, on the watch list earlier. Unblocked because of some motion stuff, but he gets there with the speed and the pressure. They took him in the top 15 as the 15th overall pick. They have some confidence in him. Once again, after they just picked Jermaine Johnson last year, they obviously love what they see in McDonald there. Mond now off the play action. No, he's going to hand it off, actually. It was kind of a late decision to Kelly. And that is a decent gain, but it's going to be 3rd down for them. Kelly Jr. gets the ball. They're giving him the ball often. And they have not switched to any other back. They're giving him it quite often. And now 3rd and 5 will be a key play for this Browns offense. And they're going to highlight the defensive coordinator for the Jets, Jeff Ulbrich, looking to make, a play here. It looks like maybe he's making the calls and not Saleh anymore in this case. And 3rd and 5. It looked like a quick step, by Hudson, but he chucks it deep. Oh my goodness. So much just happened in there. There was almost too much to explain. So it was an early snap for sure from Hudson. I mean, I could tell for sure off the line. I thought they were going to blow that dead immediately, but they did not. But Mond looks deep, throws it, almost picked off by Eccles, but then it goes over his head, almost gets to who even was that. I'm trying to see what receiver that was. I think that was Baldwin. I believe was who he was going for. But in a quick step by Hudson, I believe is what I saw there. And that's going to make it 4th and 5. Smart decision by Saleh, just decline the penalty, bring him to 4th down. And now Bjorquez at punter is going to get the shot here. And 4th and 5, they're at their about the 37-yard line. And the punt here, lefty, goes pretty far. It's rounding to the 5-yard line, and it's dropped. Wow, who did they have back there? Can't see the full number. I think it ended with a 2 for sure. Might have been Xavier Gibson, I'm thinking. The rookie, undrafted. They had him listed pretty high on the depth chart at the kick return spot. I imagine that's who they were going for. But he unfortunately bobbles that one. You don't love to see that. Even honestly, maybe questionable to even return that one as far as it went. But he tried. He had space in front of him, but the drop cost it, unfortunately. So as they're going to be on the field again, we didn't quite finish the conversation. Let's go back to the Jets running back situation. So we talked about earlier, Breece Hall's their guy. He gets hurt, but there's a lot of optimism that he might be able to return soon. But I think that I would expect them to miss at least one, probably a couple games without him is what I would expect. But then Michael Carter behind him, who has had time on this team before, and I think a lot of people maybe thought he was going to be the future before they picked Hall. But he's still there, and he'll probably still get some touches early because Hall's going to be injured. Now, I'm really intrigued to see what they do at that 3rd running back spot because they have some competition there. Zonovan Knight, who at times last year was getting the ball after the Breece Hall injury, and performed all right, was even like for fantasy purposes relevant at times. But then I think Abanikanda behind him is on his heels, where he's going to be competing with that, and I think Abanikanda maybe offers more explosiveness. So I think that him getting the ball early in this game was kind of showing. And it sounds like they really like the rookie. I mean, he was really good at Pitt statistically as well. Then behind him, they have Travis Dye. Bounced around, but in college, I think he transferred for sure once. I know he's Troy Dye's brother because he started at Oregon, and I think he went to SC. But he is listed above Demaria Crockett, who's been in the league for a few years but hasn't really gotten an opportunity. So I think you got to think those two are on the outside looking in, but with a good performance, they can make their way back into the picture. But I imagine here, well, with Breece Hall too, if they list him on anything, maybe that opens a roster spot. But as of right now, I think those top 4 is who you'll be looking at for the Jets running backs this season. As now it looks like they're going to interview Rondé Barber, who is there on the scene. And let's now go back to the game where Zach Wilson gets the ball in near to his own end zone. Going to give that one to Abanikanda, and he gains about 2 up the middle. They give it right back to him. They're pushed up against their own end zone here. Tough field position to work with for sure. I'll be interested. I think they're going to start with running the ball, but are they going to have confidence with Wilson? Maybe look at going vertical with it. and they do the awkward thing of panning the camera on someone who doesn't know they're on camera for, that was a solid 15 seconds. But now Wilson will pass the ball. They do have confidence. Fires it deep down the left sideline. He's open. It is caught. Who made that catch? That is, wow, who is that? Taylor, number 86. Malik Taylor, that's who that is. He, I think, spent some time in Green Bay and, maybe had a little, I think he overlapped with Rodgers a little bit, but an absolute he fired the ball down the left sideline. I was worried it was going to be a little overthrown, but he made the catch. Wow. He dove. It's interesting if he positions it, maybe he has more room to run there, but that was a beautiful play down the left sideline there. And now off the pitch here to Abanikanda, makes a cut back to the left, gaining a few yards. Wow, the explosiveness in the offense there with Wilson willing to go deep is definitely impressive. And they're going to show some highlights of Rondé Barber's career here. But that was really interesting. So they go to Malik Taylor is already in the game. I suppose they're not playing some of their guys. He's got to be maybe him, Brownlee, and maybe they're throwing Erickson in there. I got to see who's out there. I think they're going Taylor and Brownlee at receiver. Hand it off to Abanikanda again off the left. Bounces backwards a little for a few yards. But that was great to see an explosive play. That's kind of vintage, BYU Zach Wilson that people were looking at. I loved the confidence there, the poise that he was able to throw that. Especially, it looked like it was double coverage. And so to see that confidence and ability, the ball placement to get it in there, you love to see him getting that confidence back. But now they're up with a 3rd and 5, motioning a receiver to the right, and it looks like it's either a jump or false start. It looked like they were moving backwards. I believe that's going to be a false start. Was that 88, did they say? Yeah, Kenny Yeboah. That's a tough break for Yeboah for sure, because he's been kind of once again, he's stuck around. He's been here now a few years, and he always is still there. I think he ended up going undrafted out of Ole Miss, or was a late round pick. For sure fell there, but now it's 3rd and 10. They had such a great explosive play, and now they have to continue moving. But 3rd and 10, he fires it enough for the first, but nobody near. I think it was maybe intended for Taylor again there, but I think that was Xavier Gibson, it looked like. But he went for that one. A little too much on it. They're going to go back to, it was Thomas Graham Jr. on Malik Taylor on that play. Just gets right past him. And a great throw too. That I would take away anything like that was great positioning. I mean, he put it right slightly over, like he wasn't going to get much farther than he was. So that was a beautiful throw. And here comes an attempt from Greg Zuerlein. Jets rocking with the veteran special teams, and that's what gets it done. We're going to update the scoreboard here. That is 3 points for the New York Jets. And they get on the board here in the preseason Hall of Fame game to start out the year. Let's go to the Jets again, and we kind of finished the running backs. And as we see those receivers making some plays, let's talk about that receiver room. So I was trying to get an idea of who is out there on the field. So it looks like that drive, they had Taylor out there. They had Gibson for sure get some targets. We know Yeboah's out there at tight end. I'll be interested. Those are some guys that are in early and potentially jump some guys on the depth chart. And so it's really hard to know who's going to actually end up in the game, because on paper I would have expected Brownlee and probably Irvin Charles out there, but they don't. So as we look at this large receiver room, as you see, I had to expand the graphic to even get all of them on the screen. They have a lot of receivers here. They have 12 currently that they're looking at. And I think that there's some confidence and security, and there's a lot of question marks as well. I think that they know who they kind of have as star players. It's just going to be who's getting more playing time. Garrett Wilson, stud, phenomenal first season. So you have him as the building block. He's year one, clear. Now, when they pay him and they bring him over and he has that rapport with Aaron Rodgers, you start to think that Allen Lazard might be an early favorite. A physical kind of jump ball receiver might be the option there as the second one. But Corey Davis, people are forgetting about Corey Davis. I mean, he has not maybe performed up to, a big contract that he was poised after that. He had kind of one solid year in Tennessee at the end of his career in Tennessee that kind of poised him for a big payday in free agency. He gets a decent contract here from the Jets, and it's just kind of been there. I mean, it's been maybe slightly disappointing. I mean, it hasn't been crazy what you love to see, but he's still there, and he's getting first team work still. So you can't forget about him. But then you have the other new faces that they're bringing in, from this receiver room. Mecole Hardman, gadget guy. Is he going to be that slot player or kind of third guy? Never, I feel like, fully blossomed in Kansas City, even though he had opportunities. But I think he potentially offers some explosiveness for them still. Is he the guy that gets some opportunities? Randall Cobb, currently behind on the depth chart, and he's dealing, I think, with maybe an injury or something that they have him listed third team, but I don't think they're going to cut him. They bring him over for Rodgers, even if he is, slowing down a bit, but I think that they're going to roll with that. Jason Brownlee, as I said earlier, is the guy to watch to me, but he hasn't gotten in yet. I haven't seen him do anything, but he was catching a lot of eyes in camp so far. Irvin Charles was currently listed as second team. Once again, we're seeing Taylor and Gibson get out there. Maybe they're not going to see him tonight, but Taylor obviously puts up a big catch. I once again think he did have a little bit of time with Rodgers and Green Bay, but he looked very good. Gibson here, I think didn't help himself with the drop punt, but is getting playing time, obviously, and has that. And then Erickson's a veteran, punt returner, kind of slot shifty guy. He's been with, Cincinnati, Carolina, and Washington, but I don't know if he's going to make it here, but it's a nice veteran presence with a room of a lot of other younger players. And going back to the game, they go with a gadget play. We're going to resume here. I think they gave it to Anthony Schwartz, and he fumbled the ball. Oh, no. And who is that? Guidry with the recovery? I believe that was. I had him on the watch list to see tonight. Yeah, that's huge for him. That's tough. That's really tough for Schwartz, too. Because that receiver room, we can talk about it here. That receiver room on that side of the ball. Did he, though? Was his knee down? Oh, no. I think he lost it before. You don't love to see that for a young receiver. Sherwood's in there again on a tackle. Who else is in there? Dean, the rookie, I believe it's a rookie safety. Trey Dean. I think he started losing the ball before he fell to the ground, which is really tough for Anthony Schwartz. Because if we look at that receiver depth chart, there are a lot of guys that I think we'll have to look at it later. But, competing for that, fourth receiver spot, that's really tough. Because, unfortunately, he hasn't shown a ton. Okay, my stream just lagged here. But it looks like Wilson's about to throw the ball. We'll see what happens. Okay. And, yeah, no, he just dumps it down to Abanikanda is what happened on that one. Not much of a gain there. But, yeah, that's tough for Schwartz because they've multiple times now picked guys since in similar draft ranges. And so that shows they, unfortunately, maybe don't have the full confidence because they've picked David Bell this year. They picked Cedric Tillman. They still have Peoples-Jones. It looks like they gave it to Abanikanda again. What do I have to... here we go. I think we're back. It looks like they gave it to Abanikanda again. And is that going to put him at third down already? Yeah, some sloppy football from both sides so far. Still some great stuff too, though, like that Zach Wilson throw. But it's 3rd and 5 now. 40 seconds, and we're almost to the end of the first quarter. Unfortunately, I'm lagging. I may have to pull an audible on the play here. I will potentially move the camera if we get to this point. Okay, by my screen, it is deflected. Who got in there for the Browns? Somebody deflected that pass. Tommy Togiai. Wow. You love to see that for him, because they bring in the rookie third round pick. And so that was a potential danger. They also have a couple just veterans. As we look at the Browns team, I think that second defensive tackle spot has to be one of the biggest question marks. They have Dalvin Tomlinson, who they bring over from the Vikings to give him a contract. But behind that, you have Jordan Elliott, who they've picked before. But then otherwise, you have the Maurice Hurst. Trying to think who Tristan Hill has maybe turned some heads. Apparently, he's been solid. And then Togiai's in that mix too. Zuerlein with another kick, and he's money. The veteran special teams for their kick, punt, and long snap kind of group is definitely proving to be an asset for them. I'm just gonna try to, but that is key that they get points on the board. With what they're doing there for the Jets. I think we should talk about that. That Browns receiver room that we were going to with Schwartz. That was kind of unfortunate timing. Because look at we talk about the Jets being crowded. They have 14 guys on the Browns right now. This is, once again, I had to expand the graphics on those to even get them in there. Because there's a lot of guys. And it's the same thing with the Jets where you have this solid one receiver. You have Amari Cooper. Then you bring it down a little bit. You have two guys that are going to be competing for 2 and 3, Donovan Peoples-Jones and Elijah Moore. I really like Elijah Moore. Coming out of Ole Miss, I actually saw an explosive player. I had him ranked very highly, but didn't get an opportunity with the Jets, I guess. Maybe it was a little disappointing. Who did they go to? Hassan Hall on the return, and he's looking to get something. But that's going to be interesting to see who gets the 2 and who gets the 3 in that. Then you have this group of guys competing for that maybe 4 through 6 or 7 slot. And I think that it's really going to be a difference of, thank you so much, I appreciate it. I think it's really going to be a difference of who can bring something special to the table. Is it going to be the guy who's the fastest, the most explosive, that brings that, extra piece to the offense? Or is it going to be a guy that brings special teams, maybe a good returner? Like I look at David Bell had explosiveness, but Darden maybe brings returning ability. We're going to resume here as it looks like they give it to Felton on the run and didn't get much on that one. So they go to him now after they had Kelly in the game. That's good to monitor. But looking at this receiver room, you're looking at this group between Tillman and all the way back up to Schwartz of kind of who's going to make the roster in that group. And I really think Tillman obviously is because they picked him early. I think he's going to be really involved. How involved is going to be really interesting to monitor as well. But then Bell, I don't think they quite have gotten what they've wanted from him yet. But I think that he still has potential. He was highly sought after out of Purdue. Darden, they bring over from the Bucks, that crowded receiver room, as mentioned earlier. It's him and Tyler Johnson are the two guys that I really look at that I don't think they really got a fair shake in Tampa Bay because of how crowded that receiver room was. But something Darden brings here is they have him listed as a potential returner. They have him on third string right now, but it's a competition in preseason. That could be that X factor for him that allows him to stick here. Then it's unfortunate Marquise Goodwin's hurt right now. I think that really hurts his chances. He's on the older side, but still speedy. And maybe that allows him to stick around. It's just they have a lot of younger options, and it hurts that he doesn't get that playing time right now. But I'll be interested to see where he lands, kind of on the depth chart when he's back. Like, do they skip it? And obviously Schwartz is that last guy in the kind of that tier to me. And it really hurts that he had that fumble because they've been waiting on something from him. He was out of Auburn a couple years ago, but they haven't quite gotten anything from him yet. So it would have been really good for him to get a good opportunity, but maybe he still will later this evening. Now, Jakeem Grant is a guy who has bounced around the league a little bit, but is a solid returner all the time. Started with, I remember back in the day on Madden, he'd be the dude with 96 speed and with the Dolphins, and then I think it was either late with the Dolphins or with the Bears that he was he was named All-Pro, I'm pretty sure, one of those years. I mean, he was a solid returner. I think it was last year, the year before that, on Browns. He just gets hurt, and so he's out of the question, and that really makes it hard. Because if you look at it, I don't know if he's as good of a receiver as, look at that, like 7 guys ahead of him, but he might be the best returner they have. So do they keep him for that reason? Then you have this whole group of next guys with Baldwin all the way down to Woods with the injury, hurts himself right now. He's on the non-football injury list. But I think you look at this receiver room for them, and it's going to be who performs in preseason that can really make this team, because there you have Cooper, Peoples-Jones and Moore are going to start as the 2 and the 3 in some order. But I think it's those guys that they've been waiting on to really see who's going to blossom, and I'll be interested to see who ends up with that kind of performing well. That's really going to decide what happens. But now we're back to the game as Mond is under center, and they have Felton in the background. They're going to go play action. This is something Mond has succeeded in. He's going to check it down to his tight end, and he shakes a tackle off and gets up there. He's 3 yards short of the first down. Looking at Joe Thomas, of course, was a Hall of Famer for the Browns. So I think it's interesting to look at. I think the Browns just skipped to their 4th string tight end in tonight's game. They're 4th and 5th. Because I've seen Zaire and Greeny in the game, but I don't think I've seen either of the other 2 behind Njoku. Really interesting there. They're giving the young guys a shot. Let's take a look at that. As right now on the screen they have interviews. Let's take a look at that tight end room. I mean, they're skipping. They bring in Akins from Houston, and Harrison Bryant, his rookie year, I remember, had a brief couple weeks where he was solid, and then now it looks like he got jumped on the the depth chart, and he's maybe 3rd now. But they're giving the bottom 2 here the most playing time tonight, which I guess makes sense to get your young guys going. But intriguing to see that they skip to that point, because I think it will be a competition for who's that 2 and who's that 3. Now, it's always with these games when they show the interviews, you never know whether the game's happening and you just can't see it, or whether it's something else. But now Mond has it. 3rd and 3, fires over the middle over to Greeny, and did he get the first? Oh, that ref is right at the line. I think he's going to be short. Where the ref was on the play, it looked like he got it to me, but where the ref was, it seemed he was short. It's going to be an interesting call here. Because that was right on the line. So Greeny, of course, here trying to make a play right on the borderline. I think the ref walked short. It's 4th and inches, but they're at their own 35 or so. They're not going to go for it. Interesting. I guess that makes sense. You don't want to risk it, but it's a game of inches, and this one goes as a touchback into the end zone on this punt from Bojorquez. 4th and inches is so tough. That was, I'm telling you, that was close. He was so close to that first down. That would have been great for him to get that for his cases. But we'll see if they immediately go back to the Jets here. Otherwise, we'll have a discussion maybe about the Jets. We just talked about the receiver room. We would probably jump to the tight end room. Once again, I just can't tell when they have Joe Thomas on the screen. Congrats to him. But with these interviews, you never know whether the game. I don't think they ever skip the game on it. It's just they maybe put it in the corner or something. But awaiting here to see Zach Wilson. I'm assuming is still in the game. Yep, he is. No, they swapped it out. I think they put who's it? Well, Banacanda still gets the handoff. They go second quarter, and I think they went to Boyle. Yeah, they went to Tim Boyle. Now in the game for the Jets. So they give him the nod. I was going to be interested to see whether he gets some playing time. So that means we'll get him, and then we'll see Strebler later. It looks like some action at the line. What do they call there? Is there a timeout? Is there a flag? Yeah, it's a flag. And is it false start or encroachment? delay a game. Oh, they just didn't even get the ball off. That makes sense here. I thought maybe they got a timeout off, but Tim Boyle is in the game. So yeah, it's his 5th season. I think 2018. It feels like Tim Boyle's been in the league longer than 2018. Feels like he's a veteran backup at this point. But as we talked about earlier, I'll be interesting if the Jets keep 3. Now, it is, of course, a lot easier to keep 3 quarterbacks than it used to be, but not necessarily on your roster, more on game day. That was a new rule they introduced, is that because of the whole Niners situation in the playoffs, you could have a third quarterback on your game day roster, but it doesn't count towards your actual active players. But you do still, of course, then have to make room for that third quarterback on the roster. So it's really about the same. It just gives you extra insurance that I guess your third quarterback might have to always be dressed if you have it. That's kind of I don't know how often that rule is going to come into play. And oh my goodness, the sloppy football continues. We have a delay of a false start again. Who's this one on? Boyle's talking, and it's on Tristan Colin. Did Tittman get in the game then? No, wait, no, he'd be playing guard. Okay, so Jason Brownlee's in. I'm interested to see that. They have Carter Warren, tackle, they picked in the 4th round. So I'm interested to see if Tittman was in there or whether it's just Colin at center. Okay, they have Boyle on 3rd and 15. Just fire it to the left here. Who's that? Yeboah again. Good effort, dives forward, but going to be stopped short on that one. As that was quick. I mean, they put Boyle in, didn't get much action from that. Rodgers on the headset. I still will be interested to see whether he is calling plays or whether he's just kind of there for the experience. But he has the headset. Felton Jr. is back there on the return. He's been a gadget guy. Could be a running back, could be a receiver, and we haven't quite seen him get a ton of action. But coming out of UCLA, a lot of people liked him in that draft. And the snap here to Morstead. Once again, they're going with the veterans on the special teams. It's going to be caught and shakes a man, makes a man miss, makes a second man miss, a third, a fourth. But that was about the most jukes I've ever seen to gain 4 yards. I mean, he dodged 4 tackles to get those 4 yards. And so that was incredible shiftiness there. But, didn't get a huge showing there. Okay, now that they're going to commercial break, we're going to go back to the Jets here. We just talked about the receivers. Let's jump now to the tight end room. So let's talk about that tight end. We just saw Yeboah has been getting all the action for this tight end group this evening, which is very interesting considering Jeremy Ruckert. I mean, the thing with this game specifically is even more so than a preseason game. I think there's a lot of guys that they don't play, even some that you think would. Like, I was expecting Conklin and Uzomah to not get in this game. I was expecting that, but I would have thought Jeremy Ruckert, who I believe was last year they just picked out of Ohio State in the 5th round, I would have thought he would have maybe gotten some action. But then again, they love Kenny Yeboah. I mean, he has stuck around for a few years. They have basically nothing invested in him, but he has really been someone that they've kept around. And, he's performing well tonight. And now, the last 2, they pick a tight end in this late 7th round. I think it ended up being 7th. Do they keep him around? And then they also have Jenkins. I mean, looking at, they love Yeboah, but, do you keep your 7th round? I think he's going to be a practice squad. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I think that they would have to, they like Yeboah, but I don't know if they would keep more than that. I mean, that's really interesting to look at. Let's close out this Jets offense here. Let's take a look at the rest of it for probably second half. We'll cover their defense. But on the offense, there's a couple players that they're still waiting on. They've invested capital in, specifically with draft capital, that they're just waiting a little bit on. Like, you see how far Mekhi Becton's down there. So they have Dwayne Brown, who's a veteran. He's aging at this point, but still has been a pretty solid player and you imagine he's going to be the starting left tackle. And then after that, it's a little bit of question marks. Like right now on their depth chart, they have Max Mitchell, who they picked out of Louisiana in the 4th round a couple years ago, as the right tackle in their current depth chart. And then they have what's mysterious though. Then they have Billy Turner, who has been all over, spent some time with Rodgers in Green Bay at a certain point. They have him currently as a starting left tackle because Brown's hurt. So that leaves Mekhi Becton, who was a first-round pick, just a huge player out of Louisville. Lots of power to his game. First-round pick. They have him listed second-string left tackle right now. He's lost a lot of weight apparently going into camp this year. I'll be interested, though. Can he elevate himself back to, like, right tackle? Or is he going to be a backup left tackle as Mond now with a poor interception? You don't love to see that for him. But a great play on defense. Who got in there? I think wow. How about the irony in this? That is former 3rd round 2021 draft pick Kellen Mond intercepted by former 2021 3rd round draft pick from the Vikings, Chaz Surratt. That is some irony right there. Just read him the whole way. You know, he saw that in practice a couple years ago. He's seen that a time or two. That is something you don't see often. I mean, and wow, you almost bobbled it, but what a play. We'll talk about their linebackers later, but that's a spot that they really are looking for some time. Mond's like, oh, I got to shrug this off. Okay, let's go back to the game here. We're going to talk, and then we'll come back to the line. Because now they have the ball, and is that Jason Brownlee? He just made a man miss. That was beautiful. I'm really excited for Jason Brownlee. I mean, there's a lot of hype going around with him. But, wow, I wonder if they're mentioning that in the broadcast. But that is I don't know if I've ever seen that off the top of my head where it's just like two guys from the same team, former draft picks, both got cut around the same time because last year they both didn't make it. Wow. That was just read him like a book the whole way. Chaz Surratt picks off Kellen Mond, some former Viking on former Viking crime. But now Boyle throws it to Brownlee again over the middle. Here's that. Jason Brownlee's looking good, and you know there's been a lot of hype on this undrafted rookie, but he's performing. Wow, that was, you don't love to see that from Kellen Mond because finally I was thinking he was going to have something there. I mean, he had a confident look in the pocket, but unfortunately for him, just gets the wrong end there of the stick because he gets intercepted on that. I mean, just crazy. In that one, he read him the whole way. Boyle hands it off. This time, I think it's Abanikanda still. And he dives to the end zone. That's a touchdown for the rookie running back out of Pitt. Selected in the 5th round. Jets all over on this game to start right now. We're going to edit the scoreboard. That's for sure going to be a 12er on that one. I think I have to space it out a little bit more. Let's see how this works. Move that over. Because we have some change. I imagine it will be 13, but you never know. So, wow. What a turn of events. Abanikanda, too, putting in a great performance this evening. They're giving him the ball often. I think that with Breece Hall out early, he could make his way into some playing time. I really do. I mean, it's clear that they didn't love Michael Carter because although they spent like a 3rd round pick on him, he actually maybe fell to the 4th now that I remember. They picked Breece Hall over him anyways. You know, they were looking to move on. So I think that proves they would be willing to move up with Abanikanda too. So 13-0 here. Let's go to resume talk about the Jets offensive line who just helped them score a touchdown on that drive. I think we were still talking about the tackles. But Mekhi Becton. Let's talk about Mekhi Becton, who we started discussing. You know, I don't think they're willing to give up on him, but right now seeing him listed 2nd team left tackle behind Billy Turner, which would really be 3rd because Dwayne Brown's the starter. That's unfortunate. And behind him, they have Yadni Kajus, who I imagine will be the backup, maybe right tackle, although there's a lot of other guys in front of him. But he was with New England and kind of more as a bench player, but has been all right at times out of West Virginia a few years ago. Then they also have Carter Warren, who they took 4th round this year. He's in the mix. They have a lot of guys at tackle. I don't know if they're going to keep maybe not as many guards or something, but they have a lot of guys in that tackle room. And so that is going to be interesting to watch. I mean, it's hard for a guy like Greg Sinnett, to even stick around because they have a lot of guys. I don't know who they're going to let go there. They're going to probably let go of some players that are going to get picked up by somebody else. And it looks like it's that Hassan Hall again on the return. It is. And at guard, they have Elijah Vera Tucker, who, they picked a few years ago in 2021. Still looking a little bit more development there, but they have confidence in him at guard. Laken Tomlinson has been solid since they brought him over from San Francisco a few years ago. That guard depth is going to be interesting between Schweitzer and Pankey, who they keep around. Both are veteran guys who have just kind of bounced around everywhere. They keep making rosters, though. But who they keep there, or maybe Colin, who we have at center, maybe I saw him at guard earlier. Maybe he makes his way into that. And then an underrated Mond gets the ball back again. He dumps it off to John Kelly Jr., who's back in the game. He gets a block. He's going down the left sideline, gets another block up to the 45. It might be coming back, though. There's a flag. But the center competition for the Jets, I think, is an underrated one because Connor McGovern was still rated like a top 10 center last year, I believe it was, by PFF. But yeah, that's a false start. Oh, we're holding. That's so tough for Drew Forbes. We'll talk about him later, too. Wow, that's tough because that was a great play. John Kelly looked explosive again. He's looking really good this evening. And, okay, so the centers for the Jets. Connor McGovern, who they gave that contract, he's still doing well, but they picked Tippmann in the second round this year out of Wisconsin. That's quite a lot of capital for a center. Reminds me of kind of back in the days of when they picked, when the Eagles picked Landon Dickerson, when they had Jason Kelce, they kicked him out to guard. Maybe that's what they do here, but they picked him pretty high, and I think there's even a chance that by the end of the year they switch to him as a starter. And as mentioned earlier, we'll see where Cologne ends up, whether he's going to be a guard or a center. Okay, but now it's first down and 12 for the Browns. And Mond gets the ball. He's dropping back. He's looking it, fires it short to the right low. The guy was falling. Who was that intended to? Trying to find the number was a little blurry there, but I believe that was Mike Harley Jr. on that one. A rookie, but tough situation there. Kind of a low throw. Wasn't really catchable on that one. So now I think that's going to be, I forget what down that was. I have to reload the stream, so hopefully it loads. Otherwise, okay, we're back on the... Okay, it's 3rd and 6. They give it to John Kelly again. We've seen that before, and he gets a first down. John Kelly is just having a great game this evening. Wow. He is getting the ball often. There was some discussion. I almost put him over Darden as the key player to watch because there were rumors he was going to maybe go ahead of Felton in the depth chart this evening. And that's what we've seen. And he gets them a first down. So 24 rushing yards, 24 receiving yards. That's why I was going to say it felt like Maurice had like 50 yards, but that is combined. And now they hand it off to him again, cutting around the outside, bouncing back inside. They gave him a wide turn on that one. And he gets a decent amount of yardage on that for sure. It's going to set him up with a second round. They're going to highlight DeJuan Jones. We haven't gotten to the Browns offensive line. I imagine we'll do that at their next commercial break. And then we'll have kind of covered the offenses for each team at that point. But DeJuan Jones will be interesting because they took him out of Ohio State. So maybe they'll have him develop. He fell in the draft a little bit. And now they're gonna move Felton to the right. And they're gonna immediately, oh no, they passed it short. And that was kind of out of reach. It was maybe a design play. I'm not really sure what that was. It was a very quick turnaround on the route. Mond threw it, and it was not a great throw, but also it was heavily contested. It was kind of there. Very interesting. I think we're going to go here maybe till, let's see, I think we're already going to be nearing probably, I think at halftime I'm going to, just for kind of consistency, I might switch the camera to where I have the game on this TV because the stream, doing both live stream. I think we're going to do that now just so everything continues to run smoothly. So it's not like we're cutting back. You're just going to see a quick movement here. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit already. And then we're going to move this here because I'm going to move a little bit. Oh, NFL, do not. What do you mean there's not the Hall of Fame game in the background there? I'm just going to adjust this quick just because I think, unfortunately, it was kind of with the stream and the stream online was doing that. You can see a glimpse of it there. So I may have to look this way a little bit more often. I'm going to just adjust it slightly again. I think that will be fine. That's not really. But, okay, 3rd and 6. Mond absolutely fires a rocket to nobody, and then it is a flag, so maybe they'll get another chance at it. Okay, so that's what we're going to go with, because I think the stream's been struggling a little bit. So we're going to be... Okay, I think hopefully we're getting better. Hopefully this will be slightly better for the overall cycle of the live stream, just because I've seen it going a little up and down. Okay. Unfortunately, we had a little bit of technical difficulties. I think that maybe this is hopefully going to resolve some issues, but potentially we're just going to keep going as if everything's doing all right. So they're going to give the ball to Kelly again, and he gets the first down on 3rd down and 1. You love to see it. I'm just going to... Unfortunate when technical difficulties kind of get in the way here. But I think that we're gonna roll with what we have, and that will hopefully do. So they give the ball to John Kelly, and who's that? Will McDonald is on the play to make the tackle, but he didn't get the first down. It's 4th down here. They're gonna go for it. They go with the sneak with Amond, and he gets it. Wow, that was a solid play from them there. They go with the QB sneak to Mond, and they get it. And 5 minutes left to go in the 2nd quarter. I'm gonna just move this again slightly, just because we're gonna go a little, just because NFL can be picky, with the copyright of games. So we're gonna not have that on screen, but. Here we go. Now, 1st and 10 for the Browns. They have Felton in the backfield. They go play action. He throws it short, and that is going to be tackled. So it was Mitchell. Who was that? I think that was Mitchell. Yeah, Mitchell Payton Zaire. He has 3 names. I'm trying to remember which one. But there was a flag on the play as well. So that could potentially cause some issues of coming back. Holding on the offense is going to be the call, so that's going to bring it back. Did he just do that twice? Or maybe his mic wasn't on or something. Michael Dunn knows who that's going to be on. Now that, we haven't talked about the Browns' offensive line yet, but that will be someone when we start discussing their depth, is definitely in the consideration for one of those backup guard spots. I think it's him and Drew Forbes. So having that happen, you don't love to see. Dwan Jones out there, Nick Harrison at center. Love to see him getting some action. We have Isaiah Mack on defense. Zaire Barnes, the rookie, getting in there too. Just trying to get an idea of who's getting snaps, And so they give it to Felton, who bounces it outside, bounces it back inside, stiff arms, and lands about, I was going to say a yard short of the sticks, but it's 1st and 20. So that's going to bring it to about 2nd and 11 for them. And so, second 11, they're kind of executing a nice drive, I have to say right now. The Browns are, for sure. So Felton now, the back of choice. They've still put Kelly in quite a bit. And he's going to look. Fires it left. Barely got it through the defender's arms. Gets to Felton, and he stiff arms for the first down. Wow, that was very close. So he gets through Zaire Barnes on that. But they decide to go with kind of a throw there where Mond gets it up and over. That was dangerous. I really thought it was either going to be deflected or intercepted, but made it through there. So next we have a 1st and 10. Felton's still there. And now Mond will throw it short to Felton. He just gets absolutely destroyed by Craig James. He's bounced around a little bit, but is potentially in, that late corner depth area, potentially, of looking for a spot. That was a huge hit from a corner, and you love to see a corner get up in the box a little bit, something you don't always see. But that's impressive for Craig James. I think another one of those guys, he's on the smaller side, but shows some physicality, which you love to see. Now Mond fires it to the left, and oh my goodness, did it end up? Wow, he caught that. No way he did. Did Craig James do that? Oh no, he's saying he should have caught it. He gets in there, off the deflection, it goes way high up, and I thought that was going to be oh my goodness, it bounced off his chest. He wasn't ready for that at all. Oh, and then it lands right next to him. It lands off the foot. That was almost a really cool interception. He was just kind of playing coverage, didn't expect it, so it hits him in the chest, bounces up, and then he almost caught it off the deflection. It landed like right next to him. Kind of ricocheted a couple times, but it ends up being an incompletion on that. And timeout. And with that timeout, I think we're going to take a look at the Browns' offensive line, because that is one position group on offense that we have not looked at thus far. But actually, they didn't even go TV timeout on that one. We're going to continue watching the game until that point. But that's the last position group on offense we haven't quite discussed yet. And then we will discuss the defenses in the second half, I imagine. We're going to go to another segment at the halftime break to kind of keep it moving and discuss something related, but not just roster-wise. We're going to take a look at each schedule for these teams of what they have planned for this season and maybe give a little bit of a prediction, but otherwise just see what are going to be the tough spots, what are some nice breezes in the schedule. As Mond looks to pass, he gets it off down there, and there's another flag. The yellow towels do not stop. Feels like almost every other play there's a flag. I mean, it is preseason football, but who even got the ball there? Holding on the offense while they bring that back. They decline the penalty. That was Cedric Tillman was on Bryce Hall, is who that was. Wow, he just cooked him at the line. My goodness, did they call him on that though? No, okay, it was on defense, I think, or something. Because Tillman just cooked Bryce Hall. He hit a basic stiff arm on him, started turning around. Well, as they go to the 2-minute break, we are going to, I guess, talk about this Browns offensive line here. So here we go. Alrighty, so back over to this side. Looking at the Browns offensive line, it's a solid unit. They have no question marks. I mean, for who they're starting, it's clear who they're starting. And they have an absolute solid offensive line. Jedrick Wills has really been solid out of Alabama a couple of years ago. Has proven to be a good tackle, and they moved. I think he was right at Bama, if I remember correctly, and they moved him to left. He's been pretty solid. And then Jack Conklin, who just throughout his whole career, since even being on the Titans, has just been a great right tackle, one of the better right tackles in the league when it used to be him and Taylor Lewan. That, Cleveland gave him a contract, and he's there. And then, there were a couple draft picks here that they are swinging at the board to get depth. And obviously, specifically as Conklin gets older in age too, got to have a little bit of insurance. I could see DeJuan Jones being that because he's kind of playing that right tackle spot for them in this game. He's huge, has some strength. I think that he maybe gets beat at times by quicker rushers. I specifically remember I think it was maybe against Penn State or something. I'm trying to remember what pass rusher it was I watched, and I was like, okay, whoever that tackle on. You know what? I think it was maybe even Aiden Hutchinson at Michigan, and it was like, okay, you give some speed, he struggles a little bit, but he has some power. I see that as what they could potentially look as a future for Jack Conklin. James Hudson, I think he was out of Cincinnati. He has not looked the best to me in this game, unfortunately, but he is their best option as depth, and they also have Hunter Thedford, I guess, at tackle also. Guard-wise, they still have Joel Bitonio, who was, I think, the second highest rated guard by PFF last season, and he's really putting up what will probably be a Hall of Fame career with how well he's playing right now. And then Wyatt Teller, who they brought in from the Bills, and he just has blossomed into a great guard for them. And then that competition for that guard spot, as the Browns do have the ball back, they give it to John Kelly Jr., who's still checking into the game. This backup guard spot for the Browns, I think, is another one where there's going to be quite a bit of competition there. Because they have their starters figured out, and they have maybe one of the best guard combos, if not the best guard combo in the league. But then that depth behind them, you really have to figure out, because obviously if someone goes down, you need to be prepared. But also, I just don't know if I have a ton of confidence in who they have at that. But it's a lot of guys who have played at multiple places, as in this play, it looks like they give it to Kelly again. He gains a couple yards. But they have, all of these guys have played for multiple franchises, but maybe not even played. They've just been on. Like Michael Dunn, I remember with the Dolphins, I think he even went to a different league for a bit. Drew Forbes has been here as a late round pick. He's just kind of been here. Hasn't gotten a ton of playing time. Wes Martin for sure was with Washington coming out of college. And Colby Gossett has been on a couple. For sure the Vikings and the Falcons. But hasn't gotten playing time. So there's a lot of guys that you're just like, whoever shows you something in preseason is who you're keeping. Because otherwise, it's really kind of questionable, unfortunately. Center, Ethan Posick, actually pretty good. He, was with Seattle, and there were times where he'd come in and it was like, is this guy a great center? Is he a startable guy? And then I loved their Nick Harris pick. Well, here they hand it off to John Kelly Jr., fighting his way up the middle, physical, gets it down to like the 4-yard line. But Nick Harris, I like that draft pick, but Ethan has done a great job still, though. Like, he is doing pretty well. I think that they're going with him at center. I think he's been still graded as like a top 10 center. And so he's good there. And then they picked Whitewood this year. They have I don't love the depth here. Because like the earliest is, I think it was for sure 4th on Jones. And here they go on the pass. They go to John Kelly Jr. for the touchdown. This guy has put out an absolutely phenomenal performance. Wow. John Kelly Jr. is running his way into probably for sure making the team, but it hurts like Jerome Ford not being out there, because right now John Kelly has easily gone above Demetric Felton. But my goodness, this is This is wild. He is putting up a night. Well, now this game becomes interesting again. You know, it was Jets dominated, and now Cade York wants redemption. Missed the field goal earlier. Oh, no. Okay, he got it. I swear I thought he missed it from a certain angle, but he did make it. Makes it 13-7, and there was no mixed extra point. It was they had 2 field goals first, so now you have a ball game, 1-possession ball game. But going back to here, I think it's just, they haven't best since, like a first round pick on Jedrick Wills, but I would love to see them on like day 2 next year, just as these guys get older, specifically at guard, because like Wyatt Teller's young, but Joe Bitonio is like, it's been a decade or so of him being a solid player. And so I think that, you can't count on it forever. He's playing great, but I think that they should get some more insurance there. But really, the guard spot, I think, is something they need more depth at. But let's see, did all of these move? Yeah. We'll figure that out. But now they're going to kick it off here. But that was a look at the offensive line for the Jets. I'm going to swing back over here. Okay, they kick it off. Jets going to get it here. Who is back there? Xavier Gipson. He goes with the firing head start. He gets to the 30, to the 45, and tackled out of bounds by the kickoff. I think it was the kicker, not the punter. But Boyle's going to make his way out there at the 45. He may have just allowed enough time for them to get another field goal. That was a great performance from Xavier Gipson, who's had his up and downs in this game. He had kind of the bobbled punt, in my opinion, earlier, and then he's had a couple plays where he's just out there, but maybe they didn't get a ball to go. I do think Hard Knocks will be interesting to see with the Jets again. But now Tim Boyle has a shot, if they make a few plays, to at least get some points on the board. He goes over the middle. It's caught by Alex Erickson. You can tell it's him with that number 39 on a receiver, which you never see. You can tell it was a late camp pickup. And so now, what did they do? They took a timeout. That was a beautiful execution. Xavier Gipson's return. Rodgers is giving him this out there. He's saying, like, that was beautiful execution. Rodgers is, I think, maybe involved in the play calling. I think that's interesting to look at. But now we have Boyle. Okay, so then Rodgers is explaining to Wilson what's going on. I think he's involved. But great job getting that to Erickson over the middle. Now here you got to look to get out of bounds, except you do have one more timeout. He tries to throw it to Jason Brownlee, but tight coverage. Wow, that was interesting. A great return from Gipson sets up the play to Erickson. Was a great execution on that. That really set them up here. They're one play away from getting a. They're one play away, really, from getting a field goal, I would say here. Realistically. 2nd and 10. And now Boyle fires it deep. Just going to take a shot to the end zone. Way overthrown. Intended for Jason Brownlee again. But that sets him at 3rd and 10. I forget what yard line they're at here, because I think that they would realistically, I don't think they're in field goal range. They need one more play. Interesting. I like the idea that they went with a shot play. Just go for the end zone, see what happens, and then now they can go back and they can try maybe something shorter, take your timeout, and get your points. Because they're at the 45. They're going to need like a, this is where you need to dial up your 25-yard over the middle play. And he goes to the sideline immediately. He tries to go to, is that to Brownlee again? Yeah, and that's tight coverage. Okay, so Boyle obviously loves throwing it to Jason Brownlee, and we've heard great things about Brownlee, but he's just been really tight coverage by multiple corners so far this evening. So not much you can do there. This time going up against a rookie here. Just goes to the sideline. There's nothing you can do there. It's kind of a poor ball, too. Yeah, you don't want when you're going to the sideline to make your receiver turn back and get closer because the point is he should be to the outside. Are they going? Oh, it's only a 53-yarder from where they're at. Greg the leg. You do you. Get some more points on the board. 16-7 now. Wow, Greg Zerline here has just been consistent for the Jets this evening. And that will bump it up to 16-7. Now we're back to a 2-possession game. So that brings us to halftime on this coverage. We're going to continue with the coverage. We're just going to jump subject, obviously, because the game is no longer live for a brief amount of time here. So let's talk about something here. Let's go to the schedules for both of these teams. Let's start with the Jets. So looking at the Jets' schedule, they kick it off on that Monday nighter against the Bills. I think that's going to be a really entertaining game to watch. I think that will be a fascinating early test for them to really see who's going to start with dominance in the division as well. Will be interesting to see. But I think that will set the tone early for this division. But anything can happen week one. The teams that win week one don't always end up winning, at the end of the year. But that's an interesting one to watch. And then they go to the Cowboys, who, I think will be right in the mix this year. The Patriots in this division too are, I would say, a little bit improved, but I would think the Jets are a little bit favored in that one. Then they have the Chiefs, of course, always dangerous. I mean, you look at that first few games, and this is a tough stretch. Because then you have the Broncos, who, with figurative improvement from Sean Payton, are going to be maybe back, although we said that last year by them getting Russ. But I'll tell you, the Eagles are for sure a solid football team, and they have to play them next after that before that bye week. So they get a week 7 bye. It's kind of in the middle on the earlier side. I think that will be good for them, to bounce back after that tough stretch. But they may succeed through all of it. But, I think that's on paper a little bit of a tough stretch to look at. Then after that, they go back to the Giants, and then the Chargers, followed by the Raiders, before playing the Bills again. I think that stretch is something where maybe you can get a run going there. Specifically, we don't know how well the Raiders are going to do with, I think it's going to be Garoppolo, but there's always question marks there. And then back to the Bills and Dolphins to get some division games. Falcons and Texans have to be 2 games you expect to win at that time of the year if you're going to make a run. Back to the Dolphins. This division is going to be really interesting. I think the AFC East will for sure be a very intriguing division. I think it's wide open. Even though the Bills have been so dominant the last few years, it feels like. And I have picked them multiple times to win the Super Bowl. I think that the Jets can give them a run this year. I would, if I had, and I think the Dolphins too are in contention. They have a great roster, especially if Tua stays healthy. And the Patriots, I'm not going to count out. On paper, they don't seem as strong, but I think that they have improved, and they definitely still have a chance in this. I think it's hard. If I had to bet on one team kind of being out of that race, I think I would probably place right now the Patriots 4th, and then I would expect a bit of. It's one of those things where people are talking about with like teams like the Vikings or the Giants going into next season. The Dolphins are another team where I think that they're better as a football team, but they might not get as good of a record. And I don't know if getting 3rd. I just look at, even if, let's say, you drop 2 of those 4 division games against the Bills or the Jets already had last year, that or even if you lose 4 of those, you're basically almost out of this division. It's getting dangerous. So winning those games is going to be key. And then they close it with the Patriots. They have the Browns again here in the regular season. Interesting. I forget if teams ever have that happen where they play Thursday Night Football on the Browns game. I look at the schedule and I think they have some tough spots, but I think it really comes down to the division games. I think you have a lot of games on this schedule that look attainable. I think there's some games that you just wouldn't expect them to win. And I think the games that lie in between are going to be those Patriots, Dolphins, and maybe Bills games. I mean, on paper, you think the Bills would be favorites, but I think that they could at least split that series, and that would be really good for them. So I see some potential in this that, they have a tougher schedule. But I think that with the right cards, they could potentially get some luck and maybe keep going. Looking at the Browns side of things, they are in a similar boat where their division, I think, is also, maybe I'm overstating everything, but it feels like there are a lot of good football teams this year than compared to the past, or I should say at least competitive divisions, because I think even with the AFC North, I think the Bengals probably are easily the favorites, but then after that, I think at least one of those other teams will get a wild card spot. It's just going to be like, who is it? Is it the Browns? Is it the Ravens? Is it the Steelers? And so looking at it, I get similar feelings that I think that the division games could really be what decides whether a team gets into the wild card or not. Because now this team starts with 2 division games right off the bat. And then you get Tennessee, and then you get Baltimore. So 3 of your first 4 games are division games, and then you have an early bye week, which normally I would say is not favorable. Although then, of course, that gives you more time to kind of get a streak going. I'm a huge, I think the key to winning football games in January is how much momentum you have. I just can't think of many times we've seen a team start fast and end slow, and then they magically go back again. I think much more often we see teams start slow, then go on a run, and they are just rolling. I think of I think of 2 off the bats of the bounce back teams. I think of Aaron Rodgers back in the day with Green Bay a couple times where it was like, remember the relax or we just got to run the table. And he made some decent runs with some of those teams. I think of Jacksonville last season. Started really slow, and by the end of the year, I think they were a top 5 team in football at times. I mean, they were really dangerous on offense specifically. They got Evan Ingram going even, and that was great to see. I mean, they really showed some potential. They pull off the upset and the comeback against Los Angeles, and I think at least provided a threat to the Chiefs. At least a little bit. And obviously that was because of the ankle a little bit, but, because that was an unfortunate injury for Mahomes. But I look at that versus I remember the Pittsburgh team from a few years ago where they started 11-0, and I think their Washington was maybe their first loss. But then I think they got first rounded. And that otherwise they definitely didn't get past the divisional round. So you'd rather end fast. So it's hard though when you start with that tough start off the bat here. I think having a bye that early after tough division games is really hard for the Browns here. Then you get the Niners, who I think are going to be dangerous. Doesn't matter who's at quarterback, they can make it work. It does. You need a solid quarterback, but Kyle Shanahan's a genius, and he's made some players look pretty good. Then you get Indiana. Indianapolis, I think the Colts here are, I think the Colts are going to be a sleeper, but I think that's a winnable game for Cleveland. Then you go to Seattle, so you get that NFC West stretch here, 3 of the 4 games, so they have kind of a division trend going. And then back to Baltimore, Pittsburgh. I mean, this is a tough stretch. I mean, and then once again, we don't know how Denver is going to be. The Rams might be winnable. As I just said, Jacksonville could be dangerous. Okay, then you get this stretch, Chicago and Houston, but Chicago could be dangerous too. I mean, this is a tough schedule. Then you have to play the Jets again, and I think regular season Jets will be probably significantly better, probably. But then you close it at Cincinnati. That is tough. I got to be honest. I think that's a really hard schedule for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, that's really hard. I think even if you get Deshaun at his best, or maybe you run Nick Chubb to the ground, that's looking really difficult. I don't know how you sneak in there. I mean, it's not even just the division games, but there's a lot of those other card draw games or what divisions they play that I question a little bit what their chances are. And that makes it really difficult for them. They're going to need a lot of things to go right for that to really kind of signify, a chance at them getting into the dance and going to the playoffs there. But you never know. It's the NFL. Anything can happen any given Sunday. And let's look one more time back at the Jets. Did anything else stick out on? I think if I had to pick, I think the Jets would do better. Like they're going to have a better season this year than the Browns. But both, I think, face their challenges. Both have a tough division. But could potentially, I think, both of them. I would say both of them are looking for probably. I think the Jets will at worst get second in the division. I don't think they finish behind. I don't think they fall behind Miami and New England probably. I mean, I need to look further at. I'm going to make a predictions video soon. Just ranking teams. Now, once again, record is a totally different deal. There's a chance that the Dolphins just have a cakewalk schedule and then they end up with a better record. But on paper, I'll probably have Buffalo or New York winning the division, whoever just has a better schedule, because I really think they're similarly talented teams. I think the Jets actually have a really good roster, not just Aaron Rodgers coming over, but they brought in some other pieces. I really think that they have a lot of talent. The Browns, I could see them at best being second. I could see a world where that happens if everything goes right. More likely, I think Baltimore probably gets second is my early thoughts. But once again, I have to run through the schedules and figure out for my official predictions. But if I just had to rank the teams, I think that Cleveland's up against it. But you never know. Okay, I think we're almost to second half kickoff here. It's going to be started third quarter, 16-7. Let's kind of break down. I mean, I was going to start going through positions again, but I think we need to save the defense as they're going to kick off. But just some standouts. I mean, from Cleveland right away, I think John Kelly Jr. has been really, really solid. He has to be the standout for them right now. Chaz Surratt with that pick was for the Jets. That really stood out. I think Abanikanda for the Jets has also. I mean, Yeboah was getting the ball. I've seen more from the Jets, I should say, but I really have just seen more from the Jets. Honestly, John Kelly Jr. is kind of carrying this Browns team from what I've seen this evening. I mean, a little bit of flashes from Cedric Tillman is good to see, but for the most part, I'm seeing the John Kelly Jr. show. With Felton's gotten out there a little bit. And second half kickoff here, they had Alex Erickson ready to return that one if needed, but they did not need to. They're interviewing Stefanski. So we'll be shifting our focus to the defensive end of the rosters as they break in the game. That's where we will go with that for the second half of the game. They're interviewing Stefanski, and here gets the ball, and I think it's going to still be Tim Boyle. They go play action, pressure immediately, threw it at his back. That was embarrassing. They go, I think they have Travis Dye now in the game at running back. But that was some pressure off the edge. I was trying to catch, who was that? I think on the replay, I think that was 92. Let me see who else is even the other options. I think that was Sam Kamara. I think on that there were a couple guys that got pressure. Now Kamara, when I was looking at it earlier, they have him listed as a D end, which is where they have listed most of their pass rushers on the depth chart. But when you go to the depth chart, they have him listed more as a defensive tackle, which was interesting. I don't think that's going to make a difference if he makes a team or not, but just kind of a side note. Travis Dye gets to carry again here. Couple of yards gained on the play. They're going to highlight Jim Schwartz is the defensive coordinator. I remember he was solid for a while in Philadelphia, fell off towards the end, but has had some solid career moments. 3rd and 6 here now. Did they finally get Jeremy Ruckert? Well, Sam Kamara jumps off sides, and they just stop the play. That is tough. I think, unfortunately, as bad as it is, in preseason, you stick out the highlight players, and that's what helps you memorize, make a team. But just from what I've seen, I think coaches are more prone to, you need guys that don't make mistakes. So unfortunately, almost not doing anything and not being on the box score would be better than, having that penalty that you have to remember. But let's see, they're highlighting Myles Garrett. And 3rd and 1. They stack the box defensively. It's a tight set. They give it to Abanikanda, gets back in the game. And wasn't able to get it. Not a shot. I don't think that was close. Salah says, that wasn't it. Have to agree that one was not it. But Boyle goes back to the sideline. Morstead does a very athletic jump. I have to give him credit there. And now Felton continues. So, 4th and 1. They're going to punt here. See where the ball goes with Morstead. And they will punt it far. Goes to the left sideline. It's going to be caught by Demetric Felton. There is a flag on the play. He's going to run it as if it was a punt. He got pretty far. But flag on the play, I'd assume. I don't know who it's going to be on here. And looked like he was about to say what it was, and the ref kind of came back. Holding return team. Who was that on? I don't have the audio to know exactly who it was right away. Jeremiah Martin is who that was on? Interesting. A rookie there. Well, Rodgers is hyped about that. But let's talk about the Browns defense here. Now that second half, we're going to be talking about the defensive side of the rosters. Let's start with the defensive line that we just saw a little bit of there, of what we just saw. So I think that with the defensive line, really, I think there's a question mark, more so an opening, opposite or next to Dalvin Tomlinson. They bring Tomlinson in from Minnesota, a clear run stuffer, has been productive. I'd say he did all right for his contract with Minnesota. It was not like a star signing and maybe didn't live up to all the hype, but still a solid player. Then it's behind that what you're going to get, because I think on paper, you look at Jordan Elliott being the favorite of the defensive line here. They spent, I think it was a 3rd-round pick on him out of Mizzou a few years ago, but you haven't gotten a ton from him yet. But he's been around to have the system, and the coaches. But Tristan Hill, I think, has to be the wild card. Was a 2nd-round pick out of UCF for the Cowboys. a lot of people I remember at the time were pretty shocked by it. He hasn't quite lived up to that. I think they kind of picked him as a high upside player. Didn't ever live up to that upside, and they ended up, drafting Neville Gallimore and bringing in some other players for the Cowboys. So then he kind of was ran out of town there, and so they cut him. I think it was either last year or the year before that. I believe he was on the Cardinals practice squad maybe for a bit, but he kind of just hasn't gotten anything to land yet. But apparently with this coaching staff, they're pretty impressed. They are seeing some flashes from Tristan Hill in practice. And then we saw Tommy Togiai earlier make a solid tackle for loss. He's in the mix as well. But I think that it's really interesting. They have a lot of players here. I don't know how many they're going to keep. Because I see at least 6 that on paper look roster capable. Because even though he's listed 6, Siaki Ika was a 3rd round pick this year. He's on the roster because they spend that capital on him. But is he going to be able to jump these other veterans in the depth chart? Maurice Hurst has always had health concerns. That's kind of been his thing since at Michigan. He's bounced over. He's been with the Raiders and the Niners. Just hasn't gotten anything to stick, but he's been decent when he plays. It's just a health concern. So who do you keep there? As now DTR is officially in the game for the Browns. They give it to Demetric Felton on the handoff. Gets a decent gain. It looks like they're going to interview Rodgers as well. I don't know if these last 2 make the team, but I think it's a question of who of those 6 guys are you keeping. And I think that it really is going to be who gets that second starting spot. It may just be Jordan Elliott, but maybe someone else creeps in there. I would say Tristan Hill might be the wild card here. I think that he could end up being involved quite a bit if this coaching staff likes him. So we will talk about some other positions shortly here, but let's see. DTR on 3rd and 3 fires it to the right. That's caught. And by who? Anthony Schwartz. Good to see him get a bounce back after the fumble earlier. Anthony Schwartz, 2020, I believe it was, draft pick out of Auburn. And so they're waiting for something out of him. It's good to see him getting there. As we talked about earlier, the depth at receiver for the Browns, there just is so much that has to be decided. DTR here fires it over the middle. Oh, I can't tell if that was really a drop or just a poor kind of throw on that. Going to the backup tight end. Either way, should have probably been a first down, but they didn't get it to land. That was, I guess, not a great throw, but not probably catchable too. It was probably a catchable ball, but was a little maybe underthrown, I would say, on that. Okay, now they go motion with Felton to the left, so they go empty set. DTR takes the snap, 2nd and 10, looking to his right, steps up, avoids the rush. He's running to the left. He pump fakes and gets to the 20, maybe the 33-yard line. Wow, that was a lot of athleticism. Honestly, so far, the rookie has just looked like Kellen Mond, but better. That was really good poise there. That was a beautiful play. I was really impressed by that. He stepped up in the pocket, avoided the rush that was right behind him. I thought he was sacked. Avoids it to the left, pump fakes, and kept rolling. And now they go a little read option play. He's going to scramble again to the left, gets a couple yards, gets pushed pretty late out of bounds. But I think that you love to see the, when they shifted to Watson and they shifted towards that direction of the mobile quarterback, I was going to say it's nice to see the Browns kind of pick up that mobility in the playbook. I mean, they had it a bit with Mayfield, like he could move a little bit. But, now they have Mond and DTR and Dobbs is in that realm too, where they just have mobile guys that are really quick. And that's great to see that they have some options in the playbook. And now they're going to go hand off to Felton, who hits a spin move stays on his feet, gets to the 43, and another flag. Hold up. How did DTR end up helping him out from the other side? I didn't even see that. DTR is super quick. Really fast. I mean, you love to see the athleticism. Going to highlight Nathaniel Hackett, who of course has been in the news this week. But not really his decision why it was in the news. It was, other coaches speaking, and then Rodgers, of course, coming to his defense of his coach. That whole situation is wild. I don't even know what to think of it because it's just kind of trash talking back and forth. But DTR is now they're back to 26. Oh, it's 2nd and 18, but DTR throw. Oh, that was incomplete. And a flag is thrown. This is unbelievable, the amount of yellow towels that have been thrown out on the field this evening. I mean, I'm loving the upside I see from DTR. He's confident. I love that. Couple throws here over the middle. A little shaky, but is a defense though. Okay, so now they started here, one step forward, 2 step back, and then they, maybe took another 2 steps forward. Right now is the way it looks like to me. Really interesting. Maybe I'm over it. This seems like for a preseason game, there's been a lot of sloppy football. Of course, makes sense that there's a lot of penalties, I guess, but a lot of penalties in general. And now it's 1st and 10 at the 41. Handoff to Felton. Now, Felton's shifty. I will give him that. I don't think he's had the explosiveness of what John Kelly had earlier this evening. But I think that he's kind of just a different. I mean, he has a little bit more. I can see what they see with it. He's got a little bit more move around ability, elusiveness, you could say. But 2nd down and 7 here. We have. Make sure the stream still going? Yeah. Yeah, we're still going. Thought we lost the stream fully. We've had some technical difficulties, but think we're still rolling. But Felton has been, pretty decent as well here this evening, but I think John Kelly stole the show in that first half. And so they're showing Aaron Rodgers a lot on this interview. I have to say, I just see a new excitement in Aaron Rodgers that I think he's really happy to be in a spot that, wants him to be there. I think he actually seems excited to take Zach Wilson under his wing and is really helping him out a bit, especially because it's not like someone came in to take his job. He came in to take Zach Wilson's job, and then he can help him out for the franchise for the future. So now DTR on 2nd and 16 fires it deep over the middle, and it is caught. I think that was Baldwin or Harley Jr. That was Harley Jr. On the play. That was a beautiful, beautiful play on that one. That was a good throw over the middle. We've seen him be shaky on some of the throws over the middle, but he bounces back there. We like to see that because, I'm just seeing a decent amount of pocket confidence because now we're at a 3rd and 2. That's manageable. You can get that. And they're going to shift inside. May have been an early jump, but I guess they didn't call it. Yeah, they did call it. Felton gets the handoff. He's short, but yellow towel yet again on the field, and I think it's going to be on the Jets for jumping the line, although it could have been a false start. Just a lot of sloppy football either way. I think there's been at least 3 penalties on this one set of downs thus far. Because it started normal, they went back to 2nd and 18, then they went to then they got to 3rd and 11, then it was 3rd and 16, or no, 2nd and 16, and now it's 3rd and 2, and now I think it's going to be maybe a 1st down finally. But just a lot of movement through penalties. It is a 1st down. So DTR now with the ball, looks to his right, throws it in tight coverage, and it is caught. That was a very risky throw, but he slices it in there. Wow, to Mitchell. I'm seeing a good amount of confidence in DTR, which I like to see. I do think he maybe is still with, he's got the preset reads a little bit, but he's making them very well. Okay, so now he has it again. 1st and 10. They're going to hand off to Felton, and there's another flag. But this time, pushed out of bounds after a 2-yard gain. But once again, there is laundry on the field. This has been, has to be one of the most penalized drives I've ever seen. A long drive, though. I will give the Browns credit there. DTR has been executing a very good offense. Obviously with some help and hindrance by penalties both ways. But it's been interesting to see. A little bit of excitement. Don't know what they're talking about, but yeah, I think Rodgers is just actually pretty happy right now. But DTR 1st and 5, steps back, looking, pressure, steps up, avoids the pressure. That was beautiful. Does a little Air Jordan fake jump pass, makes a man miss, and then gets another 5 yards. Wow, you should be excited. That was a phenomenal progression. There has been multiple times in this game where I have thought he was left for dead in the pocket, and there are guys behind him, but he has stepped up very well. And then he can scramble with it too. He kept going. But that was beautiful. I'm seeing his step-up move be very successful. I love to see that pocket presence. I mean, it's not like he's been forcing. Well, here they give to Felton, and look at DTR lay a block for his running back, and Felton gets into the end zone for a touchdown. Oh my goodness, that has to be one of the best preseason debut rookie performances I've seen in my life. I'm sorry, Kellen Mond, your 3rd string. I think they have to switch the depth chart because oh my goodness, he just laid a block on a professional football player as a quarterback. My goodness, I've not seen something like this. That's something that gets your team hype. I mean, DTR has a level of motivation right now. This is unbelievable. He has put on a show. If there's one thing to remember from the night right now, I'm thinking it's DTR. And now the Browns will, bring it up to 14. I'll edit the scoreboard here. Wow. That is unbelievable. What a performance from Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Wow. That is electric. I mean, that is something we were waiting to see. He had so many I just saw so many great things from him that drive. That was phenomenal. I will have to look back at the film on that one because I saw so many different things there. I didn't just see he's another just quick run the ball gives you exciting plays. I genuinely saw great pocket presence there. That was amazing to see. And then you get the electric explosiveness with his ability to run with a football. But I also love him laying that block at the end. That was beautiful. That was unbelievable. I would not have had quarterback pancaking a defender on my bingo card for the game this evening, but DTR just made that happen. But specifically the pocket presence, the step-up move there was beautiful. I mean, I think it was for sure 2, maybe 3 plays where there was pressure behind him, sometimes from multiple players, and he knew when the pocket was collapsing. And, you look at a lot of players, I think their instinct is just to run and get out of the way. I see that with Kellen Mond a little bit. But DTR, he had no choice if he doesn't move there. I mean, that was beautiful. He waited it out, and he saw, okay, the thing's going to collapse if I don't move. So he moved. And then, the fact that they can run option plays, and then as well the block there was absolutely electric. I mean, that secured the fact that Felton gets in. I didn't even catch and there was another time too when Felton was down after he got tackled, where all of a sudden and maybe I wasn't looking, but just Robinson comes from the other side of the screen, and I was like, where to help him up, and it's like, where did you come from? That was enough to fill up a commercial break talking about one player, because that was truly inspirational. If you're a Browns fan, you love to see that. I mean, that was electric. I saw so much greatness there. I mean, this is a game where you look at, I might have to look back at the film because that drive for a rookie quarterback was unbelievable. And now we're already back to the game. We have a kickoff here. To Erickson is who they have back there just to get some security. Wow. I mean, we have to preface that he has to continue to do that for the rest of the night because he's going to be the last one in. He's going to have the rest of the game. But if he does that again, or even at worst, I'm going to just look at that one drive. That was unbelievable. That was phenomenal by DTR. Didn't even have to go to another depth chart thing because could just talk about that. That was great to see. Well, now Tim Boyle gets the ball again. They're going to go short, a little bit of a short throw, but it is caught by... I got to double check who that was. I know is that a tight end or a... EJ Jenkins. Yeah, this rookie undrafted tight end. Okay, well, he checks into the game. Yeah, that was crazy. DTR with quite a drive. I think if you remember one thing from this game, that's what I'm going to remember. But 2nd and inches now. Who is this? Travis Dye breaks a tackle, a couple of them. Gets hit hard to the ground, I think by DeAnthony Bell. No. Who was in there on the tackle? AJ Green the third was in there. I was trying to figure out what number that was. Wow, that was a couple people missed first. That was a good effort from Dye to get that first down for sure. Now Boyle hands it off to Dye again, makes a man miss, and gets to the 41, potentially, maybe a 1-yard gain. So they're giving Dye some action as well. Thank you very much. But that's good to see they're mixing in some different players in there because it was Abanikanda early, and then now they throw in Travis Dye for the second half. I think that's really the only two players they've even given the ball to on the ground. They might go to Demarier Crockett later, but that would be fourth quarter, so they're giving the rookies some time, which is what this game is really about, the young players getting some experience. So now Boyle dropping back, fires it deep to the right sideline, and it's incomplete. Is that to Brownlee again? Oh, Jason Brownlee has been hyped up, very, very, just a ton of hype going around him in camp, and it's not that he hasn't been open, and it's not like it's been terrible throws. It's just like he's tightly covered, I guess. So, but he's like in the range, just not quarterback not quite getting on the perfect ball. But there was a penalty on that too. Maybe at least drew a flag on that, which is what you like to see. So we'll see where they go with this next play, going vertical a bit. Interesting note still to even just confirm that we thought so, but that Boyle gets the ball before Streveler on the depth chart as well. So now they're going to finish their interview here with DeMarcus Ware, who recently, of course, this year was inducted. They go with a motion, and now they're going to go play action. Gets through the defender, and that is caught by the tight end. He runs out of bounds and gets a solid gain of about 6. Reminded me of a play earlier, I think it was with Kellen Mond, where he splits it through the defender's arms, who's jumping to try to stop it. Still Boyle in the game here. It's going to be second down Little over 3.5 minutes to go in the third quarter of this Hall of Fame game. It is 2nd and 4. And we'll see what they go with. They're driving down the field at this point. And they're going to bring Erickson in motion. I think that's going to mean run, and it does to Travis Dye. Gets about 2 yards there. And that will leave them, I think, at a third down situation, which could leave them a tough decision. I mean, Zuerlein has been money all night. He's made the kicks. And next they will have to make that decision here, whether they go safe or push the ball towards the end zone. 3rd and 3, easily in field goal range. I think it's going to be, now they run it, and that is stopped instantly. Who made that play? That is, that's Isaiah Thomas. Yep, that's Isaiah Thomas. Not the basketball player and not the other basketball player, but I think it was a 7th round pick last year, I believe. So he gets in there. There's 2 Isaiahs on their defensive line that are currently listed on their 3rd string. Isaiah McGuire, who they picked this year, 4th round, and Isaiah Thomas from last year. So 4th and 3. Now they're going to go for it here. They're at the 31. They're going to go for it on 4th and 3. They go roll out to the right and I guess threw it, but that was deflected. What a deflection there. I think it was intended for Alex Erickson, but then Cameron Mitchell, the 5th round corner out of Northwestern, gets the deflection. That was a very impressive diving play. You could tell it was a design play. They rolled it out to the right with Boyle there. Immediately looked for Erickson, but could not get it to go. That was, I mean, a good play from Mitchell there. I had him, well, I guess we haven't gotten to that part yet. I'll show you later as a corner. I think he could potentially be the backup nickel. I mean, behind Greg Newsome. But he might play outside too, but he has a little bit of experience, and I think if there were one other guy on the depth chart they'd have as a backup, I think they would go with him. So let's go back to this. Let's go back to the Browns defense that we just saw make a stand on 4th down. We talked about their defensive line earlier. Let's go to their edge rush, where they have a lot of depth. I think they have solid defensive edge depth here. They have Myles Garrett, who of course is a stud, one of the best pass rushers in the league. They bring in Za'Darius Smith from Minnesota, who started on fire. He slowed down a little bit towards the end, but he can kind of wrap inside a little bit, and so I'll be interested to see that versatility. But that was, a big signing for them. Then Ogbo Okoronkwo started his career with the Rams. Then he goes over to Houston. Comes in here. There was a bit of a scuffle, it looked like, in practice earlier this week between him and James Hudson on the offensive line. But, I think Okoronkwo will be a good rotational piece for this. Alex Wright is who they took last year in the 3rd round. And so they'll be looking for more development with him there as well in this crowded room, because they bring in Isaiah McGuire, as mentioned, the 4th round pick this year. You got to think he makes a team, so do they keep those 5? And then they have Isaiah Thomas from last year. But that's what you're kind of looking at with that edge group for the Browns. I think you have some solid contributors right off the bat, but then it's going to be, who gets the most playing time in that rotation? Is it Okoronkwo? Is it Alex Wright? Does McGuire get in there as a rookie immediately? I think will be interesting to see. And so now DTR is back, so let's see if he continues the hype that he had last drive. They go with a handoff to Demetric Felton immediately. He makes a man miss and then gets tackled at about the 44-yard line. So DTR just looked phenomenal. I think they're going to show it right now on the highlights. His pocket presence was just phenomenal. I mean, you love to see it. Throws over the middle, too. He started a little shaky, but then he made it work. Here, I like, too, he's going to the sidelines to stay safe, But when he had an opportunity where he, the defender missed a tackle and he could keep going, he kept going and he jumped back in. I just thought he had a solid performance there, and the block was amazing. They give it to Felton again on the left side. This time gets a block, gets hit though after a few yards by Dane Cruikshank, who they recently signed out of free agency. He was previously with the Titans. But that's going to bring up third down here. 3rd down and 2. It's going to be a tight one. We'll see where they go with it. So DTR here in his second drive, they haven't had him throw the ball yet, really. But I really saw some impressive signs in that first drive, which made me really excited for what he could potentially bring to the table. Looks like they might pass on this one here, 3rd and 2. And he throws it high. It's incomplete. Tight coverage all around. Nowhere really to go. So that will force them to punt. So not as efficient as a drive, but, they only gave him a pass one time. But I really still think that first drive was, something of a movie. That was pretty unbelievable. And now they bring out, I think this is Joseph Charlton, the backup punter. The only backup of a special team between these two teams. Sometimes you have competition. Could be a competition here between him and Bjorquez. Makes Erickson get a tough ball off the ground, but he's a veteran. He had experience with that. I think if it was one of the rookies they had in earlier, it probably could have been a muff there. It was a rolling punt, which can be to your advantage as a punt team. But now let's jump to the edge rush for the Jets. Or actually, we haven't even touched on the Jets defense at all yet. So let's talk about their defensive line first. They have Quinnen Williams, who they just got their pay figured out here because they want him around for the long haul. And so he's an absolute stud. You know what you have there. Then it's behind that's just like the Browns with that second D tackle spot. Who do you have? Because it's all, and this is hard because it's not like you have a young guy who they need to see something out of for potential. It's veterans that maybe are on the back nine of their career, but still have a little bit of something in the tank. But Al Woods, who's bounced around quite a bit, Quentin Jefferson, who kind of, he was good at a point in Seattle, and then he kind of bounced around. For sure it was with the Bills and the Raiders, and I think he either ended in Seattle or maybe went Seattle back to the Raiders. But he's had the most success in Seattle in both his stints. But he provides something there. But then they also have Solomon Thomas, who, if you don't remember, was back in the day, he ended up being the 3rd overall pick in that 2017 draft, right behind Trubisky because the Bears traded up. Unfortunately, I think was really considered a bust to start his career, but then still obviously has been a disappointment. But to at least have a career this long at this point, contribute to a couple teams is something to be noteworthy of. Is he, and obviously has experience with Saleh. Do you look at him, as potentially, can he climb? Although he's been here last year and didn't quite get there. Isaiah Mack, he has bounced around a couple teams. I think could provide something as a run support, but once again, crowded room ahead of him. And then Tanzel Smart, we had an unfortunate penalty earlier. Now I need to double check, but I think Tanzel Smart has been the type of guy who in preseason does really, really well, and it puts up a great stat sheet, but then doesn't. And then Marquise Spencer is interesting because the Broncos drafted him. I think it was out of Ohio State maybe, and he was a late round pick, and they had him more as an outside linebacker. But then he's kind of slowly transitioned just to a D lineman to be more of a force that way. As the game is back, it starts with not much of a gain there. I forget. It's always different with, not having Al Michaels there with Chris Collinsworth, but Mike Tirico is obviously as well experienced one. It's just weird. I saw Chris Collinsworth, and then your brain automatically thinks to, the glory days of the 2010s on NBC. But that's going to end the third quarter. So we are in the final stretch. So let's continue talking about these rosters while we wait for the game to continue. Let's go to the edge for the Jets. Now, the Jets have, I think, and they have for multiple years now, had one of the most crowded edge rooms in the National Football League, but that gives them a lot of depth. And this year really proved it when, honestly, it shows how much they like the player. And if there were one position that you need extra of to succeed and have rotational, I think it's edge rush. And D-line's up there too. When you can have guys swap in with fresh legs, that is key, in my opinion. I think the Eagles are the biggest example of it. But I really think that this McDonald pick was interesting. Great player. Obviously, they love the player because they spend a top 15 pick on it. But, they just picked Jermaine Johnson last year. Let's go to the top. So Carl Lawson's there. Had injury issues at times, but he's just been a solid, pass rusher. He's not been something to write home about, but, a decent player. Franklin Myers really has stepped up, since the beginning of his career. He's really rose to fame and has actually been a pretty noteworthy player. And, is a solid starter at this point. Jermaine Johnson they bring in, and I always think of the clip they have of where it's Joe Douglas is this guy, I can imagine him, chasing Josh Allen and getting sacks. And then they show a highlight where he did get the sack on Josh Allen. He has speed. And I was thinking that he was going to be poised for a huge breakout year this year. But then, the McDonald pick, I think it's more similar to that. Clemens is currently above on the depth chart. Clemens is a pure run stop. He graded really high for PFF on the run stopping ability. But I think that he will have to be involved because he's a run stopper. And then, once again, the McDonald pick makes it hard for Johnson and McDonald to succeed. And so that's interesting. And Bryce Huff has still been hanging around for a few years. He made the team as an undrafted player. He's made some solid plays in tonight's game. It's you almost got to keep him around, but what are you going to keep? Are you going to keep 6 edge rushers? And then Ifeadi Odenigbo has been a fine player throughout his career at times, but just hasn't really made something stick after his initial kind of success. I remember when Everson Griffin was out a bit in Minnesota, or maybe it was when Danielle Hunter was injured, he stepped in really well. And then after that, he was, with the Colts, I think it was the Giants. Hasn't made anything stick yet, but he's around. But yeah, just a stacked room of a lot of options, and it's really just figuring out who's going to actually get time. So now, did they just psych us out? They definitely had it back on the game. But let's now talk about the linebackers for the Jets. Starting with, as kind of mentioned, so C.J. Mosley he really recovered well. He missed, I think he opted out of the 2020 season. Then I'm pretty sure he was hurt in 2021, and it was oh, wow. You didn't even get a chance to see him play for it. And then last year, really good bounce back year. Proved why they made him that money, and really solid performance is kind of reproving himself. But behind that, I think you have a lot of question marks. You have Quinnen's brother Quincy, who started with Jacksonville and then here has gotten some rotation time. I still remember a few years ago when I did this series of breaking down every team, and they had 2 guys that were late round picks, and they were both guys that I think played safety in college and were going to maybe transition to linebacker. And wouldn't you know, a few years later, they're still here in Jamian Sherwood and Hamsah Nasruddin. Now, I really saw tonight, Sherwood, I think has looked really, really good. Now, then again, he is basically a starter for this team, and so seeing him against the other players, will make him look solid. But I truly think he's put up a good performance this evening. So I think he's proven really well. But then after that, it's pretty wide open. I mean, Nasruddin, as a former safety from Florida State, hard hitter, can he get something there? Chaz Surratt had the interception this evening. That was great for him. I mean, I think that that was an unbelievable play. He read the quarterback's eyes. Now, then again, it was, of course, a quarterback he had spent some time with practice with the last few years. But he might probably make it. Zaire Barnes, a 6th-round pick this year. I find it likely he at least gets in the rotation or makes the team. And then behind that, you have a couple other guys as well. But that's kind of what you have there at linebacker. Probably one of their weaker positions, but you have Mosley, who's solid, and it's really just figuring out who is behind that and who gets the playing time at that position, which sounds like a common theme we've had quite a bit throughout the evening. Okay, so I'm interested now that we're fourth quarter. Yes, they're making the switch to Streveler. I think that's the call. I would have to agree with that decision. I think it's about time. I wasn't awfully impressed by Tim Boyle, personally. So I think it will be good to see what Streveler has. He showed a little bit, he can move a little bit. Gunslinger mentality. If he can show a little bit of poise, I think that would be solid for him. Alrighty, so they're gonna show the interview, but we want to see what's going on. Yeah, so they're going with Streveler, former CFL quarterback, performed really well there. But now, okay, we're still seeing the interview. I know they're out on the field. Okay, I saw the players. I know they're ready to go, but we're just seeing what's going to happen here. They are interviewing Zach Thomas, who was, waiting a long time to get to the Hall of Fame. So it's good for him to get out there for sure. He's been... I did not have the chance to really watch him play, but I just know for years people have really been calling for him to make it to the Hall, and so that's great for him to finally. I remember I watched his induction, the knock video of him getting called to the Hall of Fame, and he was really excited. He was really emotional for it, and really, really just a touching moment for him. So good to see that. Okay, I have to say though, at this point, the game has to have. Something has to have happened, because this is the longest one of the night. Normally they show the interview, cut back to the game, and then they keep the audio, I think, and then they go back and forth. But right now we're waiting for this next play. But Streveler's in, and that will be a change of something. I think will potentially spark something for the Jets here a little bit more. Once again, Boyle is, but then again, Boyle is Boyle. He does what he needs to do. He's just a backup, and so he didn't make any major mistakes. I guess in preseason, I like seeing the flashy plays that show an upside of a guy. But Boyle did what he does, I suppose. So now we will. Yeah, the game had to have. I mean, unless they took 3 timeouts in a row, I might have to transition to depth chart stuff again here, because I just know the second I switch the graphic, they're going to put the thing on. I can almost guarantee it. Okay, if after this I know that. I saw the players out there. I mean, I don't know what they're doing. I'm gonna transition. Let's talk about. I'm gonna keep an eye. I swear. I think they're gonna switch. Let's talk about. We haven't talked about the Browns linebackers yet. Let's go to them. Okay, so the Browns linebackers provides an interesting. There's a lot of intrigue and there's a bit of predicament Because you have JOK, who was a great, I think he was a good pick, and he's played really well coming out of Notre Dame a couple of years ago. It's just really fast. I mean, like at Notre Dame, they lined him up wherever you could line him up at safety, line him up in linebacker, brought him in. He's been solid. Anthony Walker has just been, he's a captain, was with the Colts for a while. Just there, like, he's a decent player. Now, Taki is interesting because it sounds like, looking at it, they lined him up outside as an outside backer last year, and he wasn't as successful. They brought him back in the middle, but that's, of course, where Anthony Walker's spot is. So that's the thing, is like, maybe Schwartz can get the most out of something is going on. I mean, I might have to check the Twitter sphere. Oh, sorry, the X sphere of what is happening, because is there like power out or something? I am gonna see what is. Is there lightning? I am unsure. What is? What the? What in the world? What the? What is going on? I can't tell. Okay, I have no idea because I don't have audio to the game. No idea what type of delay. I don't know if it's planned. Oh, okay, so some of the lights have gone off. Okay, so now that knowing the game has been delayed, we're gonna keep breaking down the teams. Now we know we're not on real time slowdown. Okay, well I guess we're rocking the 2012 Super Bowl all over again, or I suppose it was 2012. 2013 was the year, but 2012 season. So let's go back to the linebacker talk. So the thing with Taki is he succeeded inside last season a lot more than outside, but of course you already have Walker there. So I think right now they have him listed as a starter at outside again. And maybe you just have to get that to work with Jim Schwartz. I mean, maybe he can get that to work, and maybe he plays better. Then you have a list of guys. I think the next three really are. I like Tony Fields' speed. Like, I think he has some upside there. I think he could, if Taki doesn't work on the outside, I think he could throw him in there. Jacob Phillips, too, they picked out of LSU a few years ago. He's been hanging around here. I mean, he's still in the depth. Matthew Adams has, at this point, I think, bounced around from Indianapolis to Chicago back to here, but he's just been a depth piece. I could see him sticking there, as on the roster. Charlie Thomas III also, maybe, and otherwise I don't know what else is going to stay around. We're going to use this time and hope that the depth chart breakdown will basically last us the rest of this game. During the delay, because of course this unpredicted delay is out of nowhere. So let's talk about the corners. So we have Denzel Ward, who is a shutdown, lockdown corner. And then we have Greg Newsome is a slot guy, and they picked him in the first round out of Northwestern a couple of years ago. And so I think they're going to have him, and I think they're going to line up Martin Emerson around the outside, who I believe he had the pick 6 last year. Like, he has shown some speed and capability at corner there. AJ Green the third, as we saw earlier in this game, hard hitting as a corner. I mean, good run stopping ability. He's progressed well, as he was from Oklahoma State a few years ago as an undrafted guy. Thomas Graham Jr., I've liked a lot, but he got burnt earlier in this game by on that deep play to Malik Taylor. But Thomas Graham Jr. was like, he fell in the draft out of Oregon, landed with the Bears, and then ended up here. But he's still there. Mike Ford, same thing, has bounced around. I think he's been with the Lions, Broncos, Falcons, and I think at this point he could be a real just special teams ace. So for that reason, especially, I was split on which one to put first. Especially after seeing tonight's performance, I would have to lean. I think Mike Ford probably more likely to make the team than Thomas Graham, because Cameron Mitchell's a lock. I mean, I have him. I put the smaller nickel because I think he's less likely to be the full time. I mean, he might be the backup nickel. Um, if I had to pick a guy, I would pick him to be the backup to Newsome for the nickel. But I think he might just make his way in there a little bit. But he had a great pass deflection earlier, a great play. Otherwise, I don't know if anyone else sticks around here, but he had a great play earlier. And so I liked seeing that for them. And let's close out this Browns defense with the safeties. Solid, really. I don't think they have that star yet, but their depth is really good because Grant Delpit is developing. He's getting there. You know, they got him in like the second round out of LSU a few years ago, and he's getting there. You know, I think he's really developing and getting closer to. I feel decent as him as a first safety, and I think it was great for them to bring in Juan Thornhill from Kansas City, who has had now that Super Bowl experience, and I think that was a decent pickup to get that there. And an underrated signing, Rodney McLeod. Rodney McLeod is still balling years later. I mean, this guy has to at least be in, I think, his 11th or 12th year at minimum. I think, because I just remember when I really started getting into things, 2014, he was on the Rams, and he was starting at that point, and that's like a decade later, and he's still doing it. I mean, he's been in the rotation, then he went to Philadelphia, but even like in Indianapolis, still a decent player. And so it was interesting. I think he could start at some other places, but here he gets to be that third, and then it's really like, I think DeAnthony Bell will be that fourth, but otherwise you could see like Bubba Bolden or someone else maybe get in there. You never know. And they're back on the field. Wow, look at that. The football game is now playing football, and we start the fourth quarter, and he tries to throw it over the middle, and that was knocked down there. So the football resumes after that break, but luckily we had some content to take care of that a little bit. And so, who do they? Now they have another interview, but this time, I think they'll actually be able to cut back here. Okay, so it's already 3rd down and 8. Jenkins, I think, moves in. Or maybe that's the other tight end, but Streveler takes a snap, fires it deep, short. Something was up there. Which undrafted rookie was that? That was TJ Luther was the intended receiver. Don't know if there was a miscommunication. I definitely think that if Luther knew it was going to be short, you'd maybe do a back shoulder or a comeback something, but it was a little bit underthrown on that. Just kind of a miscommunication. I think Streveler, once again, he's a gunslinger, but that I honestly didn't think that arm strength was quite great there. But Morstead will take the punt again as we and it's going to be a high one. It is caught by Felton. He tries down by Malik Taylor. And Rodgers happy about that. Another former teammate now on his team again. Making special teams. He had the huge catch from Zach Wilson earlier. Great special teams tackle there. He's putting up a great night. I think that, he puts his name in the running as maybe that 6th or 7th receiver. I mean, he's balling. He's doing really well. You'd love to see that. So now the Browns with DTR are going to, who do they have? They have, I think they have Hassan Hall now in the game. They gave it a 2-yard run maybe from Hall there. Not much to start with. Who else they got on the field? They got Watkins and Anthony Schwartz still being out there is interesting. I unfortunately think that they're looking to get something out of him, but that probably means he's below some other players on the depth chart. And here it is, DTR, 2nd and 8. They're going to pass the ball. Goes short. It's caught. And they're going to keep moving. I think that's going to bring him to 3rd down for the Browns here. That was just the awkward camera stare at the end. It's like not knowing where to look at. They had the interviewer. Okay. Okay. Binoculars are in the stands, so you can see what's going on. DTR drops back, fires left, and it is caught. Beautiful throw. Made a little over, and he had to dive to get it, but it was in the range. He put it where only he could get it. It's caught by the undrafted rookie Watkins Jr. Wow. That was a solid read. He stared it down a little bit, and it's low, but wow, that was I would take that. I mean, that's pretty decent. I've been really impressed. Looking forward to going back and looking at what he really feels in the pocket, because I think that's what I've been most impressed with. They're going to give it to Hassan Hall here on the right, the pitch to the right, and get stopped behind the line. Just nowhere to go. Yeah, DTR I've been really impressed with this evening. I think that has to be the standout from what this game has brought for knowledge. Alrighty. 2nd and 10 here. Looks like maybe they're gonna run it here with Hassan Hall up the middle, big hole, gets a diving play, gets the 1st down there. Okay, now they're gonna. It's interesting whether they run or pass more here because they're still down, but they're within it. If you get a field goal here, you're back in the lead. I mean, that's pretty crazy because I think Jets had the early momentum, big time. Then when DTR came to the game, changed the game. And when Jets switched quarterbacks, they kind of slowed down a little bit. Okay, DTR hands it off to Hassan Hall for a gain of about 2 yards. So they're going with the running strategy here. Can't tell whether they're going to just drain the clock and go for a field goal towards the end, but I think they have to know they're not going to take up the whole clock with just this here. Oh, how about that? DTR and Cedric Tillman went to the same high school. Did not know that. That's kind of a cool connection. I think Tillman's out of the game, though, at this point. But DTR, with pressure behind him, throws over the middle, and that's going to be caught by, I believe, an undrafted rookie. They have about 4 undrafted rookies that are just kind of out there. Or second-year, yeah, rookies and second-year guys. That one was Mike Harley Jr. So who is this? Are they saying Ifeadi Odenigbo had some pressure off the? Yeah, holy cow. Ifeadi still has that speed that he had at one point. DTR here, going to hand it off. Big block wide open. Now Hassan Hall breaks one and gets to the 22. I think if he cut that outside, that would have been maybe gone. Maybe I'm wrong, though. I need to see the replay. Ifeadi Odenigbo, I think, could still play somewhere. Unfortunately, the Jets have the deepest edge group in the history of the league right now. He's not getting any play time, but if Bryce Huff can't get play time, it's okay. Now, never mind. That was a good cut in, and then I guess that was solid. Colby Gossett, good lead block. I mean, that was solid. DTR now dropping back, looking left, fires it wide open, caught by Watkins Jr. I believe, yes, it is, and that's a touchdown. Watkins walks in wide open. Just ran like a slant there. I think that was Craig James who got burnt. Salah disappointed by that, but wow, let's see this again here. He looked over the middle lane, looks left, wide open. Wow, what a play. DTR has turned it up. Turned the heat up to 11. Yeah, it looks like Watson was pointing on where to go. Wow. This game shifted when he came into the game. And Cade York makes it. Wow, that's going to be 21-16. Now Cleveland Browns with the lead. Well, this is a, plot twist we did not expect based on what was happening earlier in the game. I mean, that is some excitement. So let's we're getting towards the end, so I think we can hopefully kind of wrap up these roster things. Let's go to the Jets, talk about their corners and safeties. So at corner, they have Sauce Gardner, who was one of the best corners in the league last season. He was a rookie. So you have your future set there. And DJ Reed is still underrated. They gave him a contract after Seattle, and he is very, very good. Kind of one of those leaders of kind of a prototype now where there's kind of a thing where, you don't have to have your tiny corner in the slot. I mean, if they're physical, you can play on the outside. And so I think DJ Reed has been a great example of that. I know he's under 6 foot. He might even be only 5'9". That's why I think he's a prime example. But you can throw, if he's a physical player, on the outside, even if they're smaller. And then Michael Carter II is their clear nickel guy. He's going to be kind of the slot there. Slot him in there. And then Bryce Hall has just, he fell in the draft, I think because of medical concerns, if I remember. But he fell to like the 5th round out of Virginia. And at first, I think people had him in the top 2 rounds as a mock draft, and he seemed like a steal. He just hasn't really done anything yet, but I think he's going to stick around here. Now, an interesting situation to watch is Brandon Echols, who is slotted like as a second-team player. I have to be honest, has been a little disappointing tonight. I mean, he's had multiple penalties, allowed some things, and being suspended doesn't help his case. Now, Justin Hardy is an interesting veteran where I think he plays pure special teams. Like he's really good at special teams. Not going to offer you much at the corner, so then it's like you spend that roster spot. But I'm interested to see if Echols is suspended, even if Echols doesn't get cut at this point. But if Echols is still on the team, but that first week you need to get somebody else in there. I don't count Hardy because he's like a special teamer. Is it Javelin Guidry, who's another nickel, but then you have kind of 2 nickels because Guidry mostly plays slot. Do you go Jimmy Moreland? He's bounced around a little bit. Craig James, who's another kind of small physical guy. He just got burnt there, but it was a hard route to cover. But he hasn't been the best, but he's shown signs before. I mean, who is it going to be? That'll be interesting to find out. They're going to kick this off. So that's going to be a mystery for them. But let's close out their defense here with the safeties. Let's talk about their safeties here. Jordan Whitehead was a great signing out of Tampa Bay. He's been real solid, hard-hitting safety. Then it's after that where I think there's some question marks. Not of they have talent, but it's who plays. They currently have Tony Adams listed as a starter, who is like an undrafted player who has stepped in at times and actually been pretty good. He's outperformed Ashton Davis, who they took out of California a few years ago. And so Ashton Davis really just hasn't done anything. And then they bring in Adrian Amos as well this year as a good signing. I think he'll probably be the starter at a certain point, but right now they still have it as Adams. And then Converse is a rookie who is currently on the PUP list, so he's hurt, but he might be a chess piece. That maybe he's that answer for that other corner. Looks like they just hand the ball off here to who's that? Did they Crockett in there now? I think. But Converse, it has an injury, so that kind of throws things off a little bit. Otherwise, I don't know who else makes it, but that's what's going on there. Kind of throws a little bit of mystery in there. Okay, so now I think they have Crockett in the game at running back. Yeah. Crockett's been around the league for a few years now. He hasn't really gotten an opportunity, but and now they do give it to him. He's going to cut there, and he fumbles the football. Hit hard. Did it go out of bounds, though? Thomas III. Is that Charlie Thomas III? Undrafted rookie making a big play, wearing 35 as a linebacker? Wow. That is interesting. He came in like a lightning in a bottle there with a huge hit, and it was a great tackle. And then so he fumbles it. It goes underneath. Who gets this thing? I don't even think anyone knew it was live. Yeah, like 67 here. It's just like, oh, I guess there's a football on the ground. But I think it just rolled out of bounds, so it could have been worse. But that's tough. That was more a great play from Thomas III than it really was a bad one from Crockett. It just was luck of the draw. Were they taking time out? Okay, Crockett's still in there. Well, I think Crockett's getting the action now at this point in the game. So was it 5 points? So they got to get in the end zone if they want to win. If winning the Hall of Fame game is in your importance, if you're the Jets, so you have to score touchdown here. It's 3rd and 5. I'm imagining pass here. Looks immediately check down, but instead he takes off himself. Can Streveler get it? Yes, he does. He toughs it out. He definitely was looking for that check down to Crockett, but then was like, oh, he's kind of covered. Hole opens in the middle, so he steps up and runs with it. Good decision on that. He keeps it moving. And now here they're going to keep it rolling. They motion Erickson in, hand it off. And that's going to be a couple yards for Crockett. Kind of a lot of players in that pile. That was a group tackling effort by the Browns. And I would think they're just going to keep kind of trying to drive here. We'll see there. Okay, now they have it again. Straveler getting ready on the play. And they're going to hand it off to Travis Dye back in the game. Makes a man miss, and then they lose a yard on it. So they bring Dye back in the game. Getting some action. Alrighty. He's looking a little shaken up. I forget, Travis Dye is on the smaller side, I think, a little bit. Although the Jets just do have some big linemen. I mean, for sure. Okay. A little over 6.5 minutes here. 3rd and 8 for the Jets. And, the hard count maybe gets him. There was some movement, but he didn't step forward. And then it was, almost intercepted. Almost intercepted by Lorenzo Burns. But I don't think it would have mattered because I think there was an encroachment basically on defense. I'm pretty sure. Offside, yeah. He definitely moved it. Yeah, he didn't move forward like you usually see, but maybe he did just in general move there. There was definite movement, though. Streveler with the old hard count. Old-fashioned, just get that done. And now, 3rd and 3. I thought they were going to go read option, but they just gave it to Dye, and that was nowhere to go. Probably could have, if there was an option, I think he could have kept the read option himself. So Sam Kamara gets in there. So now 4th down to bring in the special teams unit. And Felton is back there to return. Each time I see Thomas Morstead with the 5, I keep thinking it's going to be Joe Flacco on the Jets, even though he wasn't even that notable on the Jets. Wears the same kind of helmet, it seems, like arm sleeves. Oh, what are they doing? Are they timeouting it or swapping? Who did they... Morstead was not happy because a rookie was supposed to get out on the field, the late round pick tight end, and he was not out there, and I think they had to swap that last second. And Morstead, a veteran punter, is not going to be happy about that. Speaking of, let's look at their special teams. This is the last graphic I have for each team. Special teams for the Jets, they go with veterans. They have Zuerlein, who's been consistent tonight. Morstead has also been consistent, so it works. They have veteran players. Felton bobbles it, recovers it though, makes a juke, and then gets absolutely driven to the ground 5 yards after. That was interesting. He bobbled it, and then he caught it, and luckily nothing bad happened. And who is that, though? Is that Nick Bodden on the ground? I threw Nick Bodden in here because I probably could have thrown him in the running back slide, but he's not quite. He's a fullback, and I didn't want to make a separate one, so I just threw him in with special teams. But it looked like he was down, which would not be good, I guess, because he could be a key contributor in some way here. But they already have their kicker, punter, long snapper set unless they switch for some reason. But they've seen fine tonight, so I have no reason why the Jets would do that. So I think they're set there. The bigger question is going to be returner. Hardman probably is the favorite, and he could do both. In the preseason, because they haven't played him, I think they will in the future preseason, but in this game, because they didn't, I think that Hardman will probably be the main returner. They gave Gibson a shot tonight. He bobbled it a little bit, but maybe provides upside. Erickson they put in there, and he's a sure thing. He's more consistent. And so I think he put up a better performance. I don't think he's going to be able to do enough to just make the roster based off of it, but once again, I think he could make another team. He still has something in the tank. I think he's still pretty talented. Real consistent at returning. I didn't see Crockett get a return yet. Obviously, he just got some running back play. But they have him as the 4th string returner. They, I believe, no, it's actually on the Browns where they have guys specifically for kick and punt. But those guys are all, they have them doing both return jobs. Now going over to the Browns special teams. Let's close it out here with these graphics. Cade York, currently their kicker. He's done decent tonight. Obviously tough. They missed that first field goal. So can't say it's a guarantee, but it's pretty likely that he's just going to be their kicker. But if someone else better becomes available for some reason, maybe they look a different direction. And then it's a battle between Bjorquez and Charlton. I haven't really noticed that. I think Bjorquez did fine in the first, but maybe if they switch to Charlton, you can do that. I mean, I look at sometimes even, the name brand isn't always the best of what to go with. I specifically, last year with the Vikings punters, Ryan Wright walked into training camp wearing number 66, and now there's a whole thing with Kirk Cousins doing it this year too as kind of a meme and a homage to it. But the starting punter started last year wearing training camp with number 66, and you can't even wear that as a punter. You have to be 1 through 19. So you just got to take whoever's the best available. As Browns now with DTR, they have no rush, but they still pass the ball, but he's got tons of room. He takes it himself. He's going to run out of bounds. Good call. Did stop the clock, though, but gained about 4 or 5 yards. Then they got Charlie Hewlett at long slapper. He's been there for a while. Okay, then this is where it gets really interesting, because we talked about the returning ability earlier of Jakeem Grant, and it's such a crowded receiver room that cannot himself take up enough skill, to win the room. Because Jakeem Grant, maybe doesn't offer as much as a receiver, but he might be able to stick this team alone because he can return both kicks and punts. As they hand it off here, who do they have in there? Is this Nate McCrary, maybe? Yeah, in there. But Jakeem Grant can do both, and he's done it really, really well before. But it's do you do that? and then you sacrifice a bit of a receiver, of somebody else staying on the team. So you might have to make that choice. They have Jerome Ford listed as the backup kick returner. He's a running back, maybe. Donovan Peoples-Jones, they have exclusively as a backup punt returner. He's done it before. He's had some success. I think he's also maybe had some struggles too. He's just kind of there. Jalen Darden, I think, is the X factor, because I think if Jalen Darden can put up a better performance than Jakeem Grant, then I think you maybe look at keeping him. They give it to McCrary and they get the first down. Then I think you look at maybe keeping him because he has more upside. But Jakeem Grant is really consistent. But I think Darden will get a shot because he can return both kicks and punts also. So that closes your depth chart look at for the evening. We've looked at now all the positions on every player on each of these teams and talked about them a bit. But we're almost to the end here of this game. But here we are. 1st and 10, DTR gives it to McCrary. They're just looking to run out the clock. Stiff arms the dude, but he also falls with Odenigbo. Why did the clock stop, though? Did somebody really take a timeout? This I do have to say. I would, you're, in my opinion, preseason, you try to win the game. But there's some points where it's like, you don't have to stop the clock, I really do think it's always interesting this game every year, because I always, honestly, one of the first things, I love just going through depth charts and writing out who I would play and when. And so when you get this game on the schedule, it's like you're going to see the lesser known names. So it's kind of fun seeing these players, planning out who it's going to be. But in this situation, you're still trying to win, but it's just kind of to get some fun here. Now they go empty set on 2nd and 13. They're going to pass the ball. DTR avoids the rush. That was beautiful. Now he goes video game mode. Okay, he gets about 5. I thought he was about to do all the way bob and weave. I thought he was going to weave back in outside, go towards the right before he crossed the line of scrimmage, and that would have been, I think, dangerous. I think that would have been maybe something in the open field, but he still gained like 5 or 6 by going just up the middle after that. And now we just wait for them to do the next thing here. Interesting call. I was expecting, honestly, a QB run when they do it, because you're just looking to run out the clock at this point. That's something you never like to see. You never like to see an injured player down on the field in this game. I think that's Marquise Spencer. Yeah, that's unfortunate. A guy who is looking to make an impact, whether it's for this team or another one, definitely could find a spot somewhere. That's really unfortunate to see. You don't like to see anybody get hurt in these games, especially those guys that really are trying to make a name for themselves and maybe make a roster. Really, really difficult to happen. Yeah, that's unfortunate when you get an injury there. But because Spencer, too, because he's making that kind of position switch slightly. Because he was more seen as an edge rusher coming out of college, and he's fully transitioned to like a D tackle. Still a lighter guy, though. You could tell lighter. I thought he would still look like a linebacker, but alrighty. Now, 3rd and 8. They're going to pass the ball. DTR fires at tight coverage. Caught. Wow. By the undrafted rookie tight end. That one was Greeny. But I think he was close to the sticks, but I don't think they're going to go for it. I think that they probably will just... Although they could put this game on ice if they just... I don't know what I'd do. I think he was close. I'll tell you what. Greeny has caught a couple balls, but I think there's been at least twice where I think there's been at least twice where he could have gotten the first and he's short. Well, Alex Erickson gets the punt return and he's making people miss. He's getting open to the sideline. He gets up to the half midfield. Oh, then just loses the ball. And he just walks all cool. That was actually pretty solid. Did I see some emoting going on in the chat right there? That was inspiring. But basically, so Erickson gets the ball and he's a proven returner. But that was an explosive return. I really think he's performed well. I think it proved when they threw in Gibson earlier. He's the undrafted rookie, and he kind of bobbled that one. They said, let's put in Erickson. Sure bet. And he's done that. I think he's put up a great effort tonight. Once again, it's a crowded receiver room. I don't know if he'll make this team, but I think he could potentially make it because he's consistent. Alex Erickson has been doing this for years. Well, the Jets have another opportunity here. They have a 2-minute drill on the table with the gunslinger Strevler. He fires it, and he went for Erickson. No, he's going for, was that a running back? But it was a flag on it. Maybe he drew a pass interference on that. I think he maybe did. He just fired it. Yeah, he got a PI call. So he moved it down the field. Spot a foul too, I believe. So now I'll tell you spot a foul just when I say that. The first thing that comes to mind is I think that's a difference between college and pro. I think that's one of the biggest differences that I think is underrated, just because in college you could figuratively tackle a guy on a 60-yard pass and it's only going to be 15 yards. That's one where it's like I agree actually with the spot foul in the NFL. Indeed, the return is partially back. I'm just gonna say this now that that's in the chat. Stay tuned. This week, this month, we're coming back. We're having a variety of content, and it's gonna be. The future's here. And there'll be another announcement video too. Now that we've gone through all the depth charts and everything. Let me make sure. I think we've gone through, but yeah, that was our last one with the special teams. But indeed. Okay, I'm gonna give you the sneak peek because you guys are loyal fans here. My hope, there's a chance I get it done tomorrow, but if not, by early next week. Last year's Grocery Games is finishing. We're putting an end to that. Like, it's going to be done. You'll get the rest of it. And then we already are getting the next one will be recorded within the next few days. And I'm going to get a much faster turnaround on it. There's going to be a return of that as well. But I'm hoping over the next month, we're going to get probably those 2 videos. We're going to get a predictions video. I would love to, if I have time, get a breakout players video is in the idea. There's also I could do film breakdowns. And then I think there's another thing where I'll probably make an announcement where I'm going to be up front where I think that the way this channel looks over the next few months might be really similar. It might change, but either way, I'm going to be doing content. It's just a question of where you see it. Because I will probably make a video announcing soon. There'll be an opportunity coming up really soon in my future where still going to be talking sports. Still going to be talking football as well. But branching into some other things too. But it will be on another channel too as well. So when that happens, I will be putting that out as well, because that will be a shift where I think I'm going to be able to do both. In a way, I think I'll be able to do the weekly picks videos still, but then there's going to be a lot of effort going into videos, but just on a different channel, with other people that I think will be important for me to look at. But the content's coming back. There's been a lot of studying behind the scenes of getting prepared for the next step, and I think that's going to make it, exciting for this upcoming year. Yes, TV, I am still there watching the game. I know it's okay. They hand the ball off. They're driving out at the 30. Holy cow! About 5 Browns just tackled this running back to me. Yeah, I think we go that route again. I think the guest picks will make a return. I think that my goal this year would be to get a new person every week, or even get the same group of people every week. Would be my goal this year. Is either okay, 3rd and inches, they go for it with Crockett and they get it. Oh, unless his knee was down, but I think they marked him first. But yeah, I think we go either all 17 weeks I have one person do it, and at the end of the year, like, we do a one. Otherwise, I might do it more college game day style and do more like have 6 people pick it per week, and then we do it that thing. It's gonna be back though. It's gonna be back. I'm also really excited. Okay, well, something just happened. Was it a fumble or interception? I think it's an incomplete. That's called dead. But I'm testing it out tonight right now with a different laptop that I will be using. But soon I will have different recording software, different editing software, all types of stuff that will kind of make a switch into the next step in the process. That it's going to be good. I figured a way to resume this, resume the channel and keep it going is to start with a live stream here, and giving me experience for what I would hopefully we'll get a little chance to do here soon. They're going to go empty set here. There's less than a minute left in the game. Streveler, looking left right off the bat, fires this thing to the end zone, and wow, did they not call pass interference? Was that to TJ Luther was the target. Slightly underthrown ball. I have to say, I thought there was some contact. That was right on the line. I think there was some contact personally. And Chris McAllister's on defense. Got his arm, but it was right as the ball was going. I don't know. I thought that was maybe you could make a case for some interference there, but it didn't get called. So now it's 52 seconds, 3rd and 10 here from the 29-yard line. Streveler takes the snap, and there's another flag. Okay, we actually went a while without the flags being ridiculous. Earlier, there was a stretch where there was about 5 flags in about 8 plays. And they bring Brownlee back in the game. I think Jason Brownlee's getting the ball. I need to watch stuff after. I think there's a chance Rodgers has been either calling or at least heavily influencing the calls of tonight's game, which is getting him some experience. Okay, but 3rd and 15. Have to think they're going pass again here. They got Erickson, they got Brownlee, I think, out there. Now he steps up, then he fires it. Oh, way overthrown, and then dropped by McAllister. Oh my goodness. 2 plays in a row. McAllister had the potential holder pass interference call, and then dropped interception. That's really tough. Or Tanner McAllister. I don't know why I was thinking Chris McAllister. Wow. That was wild. But, okay, this is the game right here. 4th and 15. Streveler gets the ball, empty set. He has to get rid of it. He does, and it's intercepted by Bubba Bolden, I think that is. Is that 36? Yes. Yeah, that is. Wow. What a way to end the game, basically. 40 seconds. We'll ride out to 40 seconds, but what a play. Bubba Bolden. I mean, credit Streveler, at least put the thing in the field. Here's what I saw from that. Streveler actually... thank you. I think my laptop's going to make it. I think it's going to make it, the laptop. been going with the battery, but I should probably just plug it in just in case. Streveler, I think, actually has the right mindset, like, to be a solid quarterback, and I see the gunslinging ability. It's just, though, he clearly, to me, unfortunately, doesn't have the arm strength. Oh, hold up. Hold up. There's a flag on the play. Oh my goodness, unsportsmanlike conduct. Oh, but that's not going to do much, is it? They're laughing it off. I think it doesn't matter. Bubba Bolden, though, huge play. Huge play. Yeah, but you'd see it because Streveler gave it his all at the end there, but I just could tell he doesn't have the juice with the arm to do it. He has the right idea on all of it. He honestly making great reads. Can move a little bit. But DTR is going to close it out. Wow, they pull it off the win. I didn't even look at, I mean, I could look at the stream what the score was at one point. I mean, I thought it was for sure. I thought maybe 16-7. I don't know. New York was on it early. And then when DTR came into the game, that switched. The switch was flipped because DTR looked really good. I'm going to have to take a look if the film comes available. I might have to do a breakdown on what we saw from DTR because he was really impressive, especially on that first drive. It was really, really interesting. Well, what a game. Some ups, some downs from both teams. We saw some star players. So star plays from lesser known players that give hope for a lot of those guys, because I think we saw a lot of trends. I noticed a lot of things. I'm just going to scroll through here quick. I think let's just finish it out with, let's go through and talk about each position again, but just like what we noticed. Special teams wise, for the Jets, I think Alex Erickson actually really consistent at returning. Don't know if he gets a spot here, but somewhere he needs a spot on a job. He was solid. Sorry, it's going to go better if I go the other way around, if we start with this way. Let's start with this. Zach Wilson did good. Didn't see much from the other two, to be honest. Abanikanda, they gave the ball early and often. He did great. Travis Dye, I thought, showed some physicality. That's what I saw there. I wanted to see more from Brownlee. I think he actually had a decent amount of reps and opportunity. He was kind of open, but never fully wide open. And then the balls that he was open, the quarterback it didn't matter. It was mostly Boyle, but I didn't think Streveler did it great either that way. Malik Taylor, though, holy cow, what a game. I mean, he had the deep threat catch, but then he also had the special teams tackle. That was really clutch. He had a great performance. And Erickson, as I mentioned on special teams, he was consistent. Yeboah caught the ball early. That's all about there. Line-wise, I'll have to relook at stuff. You don't really notice that live game. Hope Marquise Spencer's injury isn't bad. Bryce Huff was good. Clemens got in there on some run stopping. Odenigbo still had some juice. Once again, this is like the deepest edge room in the league, so I don't think he makes this team, but for somebody he can play. Sherwood I thought was really good, actually. And then Chaz Surratt with that interception was also really impressive. But I liked what I saw from Sherwood quite a bit. I know he was playing against backups as he's the starter. I didn't see anything crazy. I thought Craig James was up and down. I saw a little bit of good, a little bit of bad. Nothing really there. I'm going to go to the Browns now. Let's just quick go through them. DTR, real good. John Kelly Jr., really solid performance at running back for sure. Felton was decent too. I just saw more from Kelly. Receiver-wise, you know what? Unfortunately, I don't know if anyone really... Tillman was fine. Unfortunately, Schwartz had that fumble, was really tough. Was the only thing there. And then otherwise, like Harley Jr. caught the ball a little bit. Sam's Watkins. The bottom two were getting the ball a ton, but I didn't see anything crazy. Lions, same thing. We had well to see at a later point. Nobody really in that group. Who else even? I don't know if I saw as many standouts from the Browns, except for AJ Green made a physical tackle. That was kind of interesting. Cameron Mitchell had the great pass deflection too. And Bubba Bolden with the closing pick, I guess, was interesting. But those were the standouts in the game. But I want to say thank you to everyone for watching this live stream, or if you're coming back to it in the future. This was the game. We're on the way back. Sorry it was a bit of a hiatus, but I was working on some other projects, and now I'm going to shift back. I'm still going to be working on some other things, but I'm really hoping in this next month, I've got a couple of videos coming out really, really soon. Even this week. Hopefully I'm at least getting another, and then we're filming another one this week. And it will be very interesting. And then as football season comes around, that's when the content becomes more relevant. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this evening, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.